the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
B, roll call.
Mrs. Brumbaugh?
Here.
Mr. Kress?
Here.
Mr. Diaz?
Here.
Mrs. Kim Parsons?
Here.
Dr. Hinkleman?
Here. 2, hearing of the public. How to address the Board of Education. To speak to items on the agenda, hearing of the public is time provided for public participation during board meetings. Board members also welcome public input outside of board meetings. The presiding officer of the board will recognize anyone wishing to speak to an item on the agenda, how to be recognized, and what to do when recognized. When it is your turn to address the board, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized by the presiding officer. State your name and address. 3, address board members of a group, as a group. Guidelines for public input. 1, Board of Education members may ask clarifying questions. 2, the presiding officer may use his or her discretion regarding recognizing speakers more than once on the same subject. 3, individual remarks shall not exceed 3 minutes unless the presiding officer grants additional time. The presiding officer may rule repetitive statements out of order. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. No person may address or question the board members individually. Who would like to speak first?
I'll go. Maybe I explain that. Okay, I hope I can get done in 2 minutes. You know, so we're not looking about my address. I prepared a statement with concerns and questions for tonight's meeting. Most of these concerns and questions have been addressed or asked in prior board meetings, and I'm seeking clarification regarding these issues and topics. 1, what is your plan to update policy 3213? As stated by Karen McGill, the treasurer, in an email a few months ago, policy 3213 was referenced when I inquired about which policy is correlated to the coach-to-student athlete communication policy. I received and reviewed the email that was sent from the AD to the coaches, notifying the coaches of a change in practice regarding how they communicate with student athletes, and that was by a public record request. As evidenced by the email, the AD has directed the coaches to no longer utilize cell phone text messaging to communicate with student athletes. Why did my son receive a text message from the coach on October 27, 2024, weeks after the email was sent to the AD to the coaches, or from the AD to the coaches? Where did the breakdown in communication occur? What changes will be implemented to prevent this from occurring again? Do you have a mentoring program for newer coaches to be mentored by more experienced coaches? When will the policy be updated? It was last updated in 2011 to guarantee that the school staff will be held accountable. Why do we keep failing the children in this community? Why do we continue to find deficiencies in our policies that are implemented to keep the children safe? 2, what is or where can I find the policy regarding how often a superintendent is expected to receive a performance evaluation? I've requested all performance evaluations for Brad Ritchie and I've received 3. He received an evaluation in 2019, 2022, and just recently he received a performance evaluation in 2024. The most recent evaluation was dated weeks after the BOE renewed his contract for 5 more years, starting the summer of 2025. How does the BOE renew a contract for 5 more years without a recent evaluation being completed? If there is a policy, can you refer me to which policy that the BOE utilizes? And have you considered modifying the policy to require a performance evaluation to be required annually? This would help the district hold the superintendent accountable and would encourage the BOE to have meetings annually where new goals are set and old goals are reviewed to see if they were successfully completed. 3, have there been any discussions regarding potentially adopting a policy where spouses of employees who are permitted to receive insurance coverage through their employer would be charged a surcharge if they were decided to stay on their spouse's plan? Have you considered a spousal exclusion option? Have you investigated if these options could potentially be a way to save on the insurance costs that the district is responsible for, which I think is close to $2 million? Is there a way to, 4, is there a way to make the monthly disbursement summary more user-friendly for the community by other color coding the information to the specific fund that is being utilized to pay the specific expense or charge, or could you separate the expenses charges into separate columns that are categorized by the specific fund that is being utilized to pay for the specific expense or charge? As referenced by a few BOE members in Brad Ritchie's performance evaluation recently, a few of you believe that the community is not educated or the community is lacking understanding regarding the school financial information. Why can't we make the reports easier to understand for the community? Many in this community want to understand the information and they want to be involved and find the innovative ways to reduce the waste and increase efficiency at the school.
Thank you.
Do you guys have any answers? Because I never get answers from my email. were receiving private text messages from the coaches without my son, or without my husband and I included in the text message thread, and I brought that to the attention of the board on August 19th, I think, or August meeting, and then we found out through public records requests that there was implementations, like modifications made from Chris Bolton to the coaches. There was email sent out that said that they shouldn't be doing that anymore. And then after that, my son still received a text message. And my husband decided, he told me he was like, it's useless to reach out to the board. So I reached out to the coach, which I had done prior. I mean, this has been a long saga, right? But I reached out to the coach. I'm sorry?
What grade?
High school. And I reached out to the coach, and he is under, now knows that there has been some changes made to the policy, and he has not done anything, out of the policy now. But he wasn't, I don't know if he wasn't aware of it or whatnot. Yeah, the Team Snap app, or whatever the preferred form of communication is.
Okay.
I mean, they're minors. You should not be communicating with my kids, as minors, without being involved in it. So, and this was brought up to it in the August meeting. You can find it. I think Mike Kraft videotaped it, and you might.
What's that?
So that August meeting, 2019, or the August 19th, 2024 meeting. So, and there's, documentation from Chris Bolton and the coaches that stuff needed to change, and obviously the same, same thing continued to occur. And I reached out to the coach, and he hasn't done it again, thank God. But
So that this Team Snap, like a school sanctioned,
It's the one most teams use.
I despise it.
So I was and I know that the coach, he was on the email thread, right, from Chris Bolton. So where did the breakdown occur? Did the coach not look at his email, and that's why he wasn't aware? Did he forget? I mean, where is the breakdown of communication happening? Because it shouldn't have, my son should not have received another text message from a coach after that.
I can't speak for all board members, and they can chime in, but I think as a group, we want the coaches to communicate through an app. I personally feel that it's better for all parties involved.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree.
So I think it protects both parties from anything, and I just think that's the way that we should communicate.
I 100% agree with you.
We reiterated that, and we do need to find out where it broke down, whether the email wasn't read, but.
Well, and maybe there should be follow-up, 2 weeks later after that email went out, maybe Chris Bolton should have reached out to them, by a phone call and verbally touch base with them.
I think he does verbally touch base with
Well, and I'm
them.
not aware of any of this, right? Like, I
Yeah,
didn't even know.
I mean, they
that-
talk
Yeah, well,
pretty
the school didn't
frequently.
communicate to me that there was any kind of modifications being done. I found out through sources in the community, and then had to make a public records request to confirm that all this was happening. So, so how would I know that Chris Bolton is following up with them, verbally? So, and I know that there's.
I don't know that you can have record of their conversations.
And you could use them as mentoring, to mentor, coaches that are not experienced with the Team Snap app. I mean, that's like totally a way that it stops those deficiencies and issues from happening. It should have been the outlook here, but would it be updated in here? Well, or maybe, I don't know. I know the policy that Carrie referred me to has not been updated since like 2011. So, obviously, and I don't know, maybe it takes some time to get the policy updated, I don't know. But is that something you're working on?
Is that a Neola policy, Brad?
It is.
So for the most part, we follow Neola's policies. That update is happening soon? Didn't you say we were on the
Yeah.
end of his rounds?
We have drafts so far, but there are some choices that need to be made in some of those drafts. So typically, our Neola rep will visit us after he's had a chance to check in with other school districts, so we get a feel for what other school districts are doing on those policies where there are choices to be made. And so then when we put in that choice, then you folks, that's what you would see in board docs. Everything's in green is new language, everything is in red is old language and coming out. So there are several policies that would be part of this fall update, and then there's another round that would be part of the winter update. But we can always ask our Neola rep to move current policy into that draft folder. So if this is one that the board wants to edit, revise in some way,
Let's take
then
a look at it.
we can put it in the drafts.
Okay.
I mean, this should be something that everybody wants, that's gonna protect kids and coaches, right, and staff. I mean, this really should be across the board for staff too, school staff and student athletes, students in general. So,
I think we're probably going to have to move on.
no, that's okay, but I had, other questions, so, and I typically, I send emails out to you all the time, and I never get any responses back from any of you. Carrie has politely responded to my public records request and some of my questions, but, is somebody gonna answer the last 3 questions that I had, or clarify?
We are going to have to continue with the business of the meeting, but I would like to clarify, most of your emails didn't go to me until more recently.
And they don't go, I'm not on the,
Well, I can look back, but I'm pretty sure I've been sending them to you all for quite a while, so. And they
Maybe
never-
since
I mean,
October.
I don't know, it might be before that, but I will definitely clarify that, but I still have never received any kind of responses from you all. I think, well, you have, Justin Cross has, and Carrie, and then Brad has, or Dr. Ritchie, until probably around August, maybe July, he had refuses to answer.
Some of the items, I'm sure you're aware, but like when you ask for email messages from a big block of time, I can't get those.
Oh, no, I
Those have to be
understand that,
pulled
but
from
I'm
a
just asking
server.
questions like this,
I know. I just
you know.
want to explain that those have to be pulled from a server, gone through by IT, then turned over to an attorney to go through them and look for personal information. And it all has to be vetted. Yeah. So
Well, I understand
And
that,
some of
but,
them
I
probably
have
would be
easy
better
questions.
as a conversation, like meeting in person.
Well, I'm here, meeting in person with you, but,
This is a
there's
point,
an
though,
easy
when
question I
we
asked,
need to
like,
do our
have we ever
business.
considered, metal detectors at the entrances? I sent that a few months ago, and that never even got answered. That's kind of an easy, quick question that could have been answered from all of you, and it wasn't, so.
This
I
isn't
was
necessarily
hoping
the
to answer some
forum to
questions.
answer all those questions. This is,
Well, I understand that, but I also email out and nobody still answers them. So I'm just asking if somebody's gonna follow up with me on these questions that haven't been answered yet. I'm not trying to be a pain in the butt, I just would like to, I've spent time asking these questions.
if you
I'd like
want to
get
meet,
answers.
we could set up something with everyone.
Well, and that's okay, but I prefer to have something kind of in writing too, that there's a paper trail too involved.
I think it would be best to meet in person for a lot of these discussions.
Well, that might be your preference, but I also prefer a paper trail, so an
Okay.
email would be, sufficient too in my standpoint. But I understand where you're coming from, and I appreciate your dialogue with me.
Who would like to speak next?
I'm Suzanne Ryerson, 3610 Whitmer Road in Nora. So I have some QR codes if you want to see the results of the survey that I did. I used to work here and my job got cut, and I just want to say to the board, thank you for cutting me, because it's been a blessing to my family. So I don't want you guys to feel like bad about that. And I know that you have more work to do, and I want you, I think a lot of us believe
I think I found it.
in God, right? And so I don't want you to fear cutting more positions if that's what needs to happen. But I did the survey, and the results were, you guys can look at them, but it was kind of what I was thinking it would be. And the people in our community don't want more teaching positions cut. I think that's obvious, and I hope teachers know that and understand that. And I also wanted to empower you guys to make the decisions that you need to make, because that's what the community is asking for. And it's not personal, So anyways, and then I wanted to talk a little bit about my questions that I have, which is also on the website. And I will skip down a little bit, but was the board aware that we could change the allocations on the current earned income tax? Was that presented as an option without an increase, just changing allocations?
I think we knew it was an option. At the time, we knew that wouldn't be enough money, and our hope was to get enough. Well, so to clarify, we'd have to get rid of it completely. You can't modify the allocation. So once it's 92.8, it's that forever. Now, we could have dropped it, or we'd have to vote to replace it, is my understanding.
yeah, you can't just change that.
You can't just change it. You'd have to vote to completely replace it. At the time, that wasn't, we were hoping to get enough money to actually cover our deficit and not have to make cuts. So we did not consider just reallocating because it was by far not enough money. So the first goal was to attempt to keep services the same.
Right. Okay, because once I looked at the numbers or projections from what you would have put the permanent improvement amount down to the spring levy, that would have given us, like what, $1.5 million for this school year or this calendar year, possibly. From my calculations, I'm just working from one of the numbers from the 5-year forecast where it shows the earned income amount that is going to operating fund. So I'm kind of using that number for all my calculations. So feel free to check me, but I think, just knowing that could have given us another $1.5 million for this year, and thinking about, how that could have been spent, I don't know, it's just hard to understand, I guess. And I don't understand the riskiness because in the spring, you were going to have to replace it anyways. You were just going to add on to it, right, and then replace it.
We were going to reduce it and then add a new one. But that one would have stood at that 92.8, if I'm correct. Which we're not tax attorney, that's why we use firms. And I don't understand Ohio Revised Codes, why they let us put some things on the ballot and not others. But we use multiple attorneys and consultants.
Well, and I think that's why I was fighting to get, what are the terms of the bond? Like why these percentages? And
I do know the answer to that because I really dug into it last spring to do it was a 1% new, and then we voted to subtract 0.5%, so it was a net increase of 0.5 or 0.5%, and the new 1% was going to be allocated all to operating funds. We were also going to have to do some maneuvering in the current debt and pay some off early because the debt, the 92.8 ratio was used and calculated that the money would be there coming in to service the debt obligations of this building. So you can't just willy-nilly be changing the ratios of operating funds and PI funds.
So did you see my calculations? I mean, I was bringing it down to what we were willing to come down to in the spring.
I looked at them briefly.
Reallocating.
I looked at them briefly, and my calculations were different than yours. But I haven't really spent hours on it to make sure that I'm right. But we weren't getting the same math. So
Because I thought we were paying like $1.5 million a year. Is that right?
I think it's
And then
1.68.
1.8 is what we were comfortable coming down to in the spring, and so I just adjusted the allocations on the current earned income tax to adjust it down to that, which would allow us to have 45% going into operating fund. But anyway, I was just curious, were you aware, like who's coming up with these options? How does that whole process work? And then I know I'm out of time, but I did want to talk about transportation a little bit too, because I feel like, if we could give the bus drivers those 5 contracted hours, I feel like we would, they were at 4.5, I think, and then we cut it down. But are we saving, is it like $5,000 or something? I just don't know that it's like a significant amount of money to where we put ourselves in a position where we can't, recruit or retain bus drivers. And, one of my suggestions has always been the postage, like that's just eliminating 5 mailings a year to the whole district. And that's $5,000, So anyway, that's all. You guys.
Just real quick, the transportation, the going to One Bell, that all rolled into, and then reducing the transportation it saved half the fuel, and at the time, fuel was very high. So it was well into 6 figures of savings to the district. And when you're looking at cutting, and 75 to 80% is payroll and healthcare expenses, and the other 20 is other, we were trying to be proportionate in how we made reductions to our expenses.
Well, my point with the 5,000 was just for our current drivers. Obviously, I'd love to see transportation brought back, and I think that healthcare option that I proposed could save a lot of money without doing a spousal exclusion or surcharge. It'd be a win-win for employees. They could essentially have no healthcare costs. But I did want to, and I sent it to Carrie and Dr. Ritchie, but I would like to know what were those projections for savings with transportation. But my 5,000 number was really talking about existing bus drivers, what's holding us back from giving them the contracted hours to be competitive with other districts and be able to retain them, you know, and can we cut other areas where we're not being efficient?
Yeah, I don't think the
Yeah.
5,000 is accurate, but
I
just
was
off
just
the,
estimating
because I fit,
$20 an hour and a half more, like 6, I don't know, there's 6 routes right now, but I'm sure we have more. Yeah, I don't know.
I just want to go back to, I just want to put this on record real quick on the income tax. First off, thank you for doing all the, the research and putting those numbers together. I have looked through them. I just want to, for the record, state that when the income tax, the promise to those who issued the debt was issued back in, I believe it was 2008, the advisors at the time they set the percentages at 92.8 based off of the income that was projected from the Ohio Department of Taxation to pay off the annual bonds that are due, the amounts that are due. So while we tried to do some reallocation, as Justin spoke to earlier, we have to remember that we have a duty to pay those bonds, and that's why those percentages were set back in 2008, 2009. I can't remember the exact time frame. So I want to put that on record. We can't change that. Legally, we can't change it. We thought when I first came in, we were like, oh great, yeah, we can change that ratio. We can't. So
We can't do a full replacement?
not without dropping the current one that's on there. And the board tried to do something very creative back in the spring, but
Well, that's what I'm saying. It would be essentially dropping it down to the same amount of money, revenue coming in for permanent improvement. So, I mean,
And we
yours was a different way of doing it, and people didn't vote yes because it was tacking on extra.
understood. So we also have to.
I guess I don't understand why
They'll do it
it's.
if you increase it, but they won't do it.
If you have to, you also have to consider, and Justin, correct me if I'm wrong, there's callable bonds as well. So there's
Yeah.
a lot of behind the scenes work on this. I don't want you to think that we completely dismiss that. We simply couldn't get to where we needed to get.
there's also a built-in buffer on collections because income tax goes up and down as residents' income goes up and down. So the bond holders would want a buffer in there, and I don't know the percentage, but I know it has been discussed with me, with Mr. Shaw.
So I would love to have your numbers because by my calculations, we were willing to go down to that in the spring. So that's why I used that.
To the 55-45?
The 1.8 million number. That's how I arrived at the 45-55 split.
I thought up there you said 1.6. We can talk
I
privately.
said
Yeah.
it would bring an extra 1.5 million into the operating fund if we made that split. But you were willing to come down to, from my calculations, from the current amount that's going to earned income, or going to operating fund from earned income, I use that number, reduce the current earned income tax down to, what was it gonna be, 1% or 0.75? I can't remember which one it was, 0.75? And then calculate it based on the current number. So do you know what I'm saying? That's why it's hard for me to wrap my brain around, because now we're out 2 years, right? That's $3 million that could have been an operating fund, over this year and next.
Again, we can talk personally. I just don't think our numbers match. And my numbers, I had help getting to those numbers, but I mean, I'd be more than happy to discuss it with you because I started last spring to try to go changing the allocation and kept running into brick walls. Like, you couldn't just do a straight allocation change. So it just kept evolving. And then the language on the ballot, is a new 1%. It doesn't mention the fact that we were taking half off. So it was only a net 0.5. And we found out we couldn't change the language on the ballot either. So, I mean, we're looking at everything right now. I mean,
To restructure it, correct me if I'm wrong, Carrie, we have to drop that totally and then gamble on the fact that it's going to pass.
How could it be that? Because in the spring, it was the same situation, except you were reducing it and adding another one.
Yeah, I
So
think
I guess I don't understand.
I think it's
how
more.
you're saying it would be 2 issues on the ballot?
No, I think the way way it is, it's filed and it's either fill or kill, meaning if it doesn't pass, it kind of goes away. The motion that we file with the state saying we're subtracting that. I believe, my understanding, that's how it works.
Right.
So
It's
if
just-
it
it's
wouldn't
just hard to
pass,
find
it would
an
revert
expert
to
of-
what it was.
Who do you ask? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we worked with Dan Shaw and
And then our attorneys
our
as well.
attorneys. And then once one doesn't pass, you have so long till you can try again, so it's not like the one doesn't, this has been a process of almost
Well, I
2
know,
years
if
now.
I knew that
Yeah.
was an option to begin with, I would have just done that and then tried to push something else later on. But unless there's some other like plan that the community's aware of.
I think you can have that discussion later. I think we should probably move on, though. Does anyone else want to speak? Okay.
Price, and I guess we'll back on to Ms. Richardson. I'm going to speak like from a community standpoint. As I've been bombarded with emails, texts, face-to-face conversations, and I know that extremely high amount of the community is dissatisfied with this board. And I also know a lot of them have asked us, how do you call for resignations? I can't answer that, I don't know. But because of that, I've asked why. And the answers I have are due to lack of distrust, due to lack of trust, no favoritism, arrogance, and lack of accountability, along with rude and dismissive attitude that the board shows when people like myself try and talk to you or you say something you don't like. A lot of extreme criticism of spending decisions such as the land, extracurricular activities, administrative costs, report. When people have suggested to sell unused assets or cut administration salaries, which by the way are exceptionally high in this state compared to other districts our size, once again, we get that dismissive attitude and called liars. I've personally been threatened. My grandchildren have been threatened because I disagree with some of the things the board does. Distrust and lack of leadership due to declining academic performance, perceived misuse of funds, and definitely the lack of transparency and refusal to take ownership could possibly be the downfall of this board one way or the other. The community, by defeating the levies 3 times, is pretty much basically demanding a new vision, new leadership, along with rebuilding trust and uniting this community, and above all, prioritize student, academics. Personally, I agree with most of this, and I deserve as a tax-paying community member to be respected and not talked down to. And I have the right to demand the fiscal responsibility of this board, as you are the same people taking my hard-earned money and making bad decisions. You put us in this position, you now need to dig us out of it. Quit blaming the community, quit blaming people like myself, and step up and, unite us to create this district's future that benefits our kids and not the board.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Anyone else like to speak?
Just for Ludlow Falls. So I'm going off of what she said. I said back in 2023, why don't you reword it or redo it? And I remember saying you can't do it, it's illegal to do that, to change how the percentage goes about. And I also remember back then in 2023, I said, why are we doing this? Because of I also said because of the COVID money disappearing, and I got an answer of yes. So now I'm still trying to figure out what was overspend, how did we get there from that overspending or whatever, and why are we still trying to catch up to that, to keep that going, whatever's going that you guys don't want to get rid of.
She's arrogant.
Oh, that's a power.
Okay.
At the automatic switch.
Computerized.
Is Mr. Francis finished? Mr. Francis, were you finished?
Not really, no.
Well, why don't you go ahead? I mean, that,
Also, if you guys said 10 years, we still run out of money, even though if the levy passes, and it's 7 years, even if the levy doesn't go, that's when we'll run out of money, something like that, 3 years difference. So, but you want people to vote for levy, for the income tax raise up, or either way? Because I remember that was stated to you guys at the thing.
Well, one thing about our forecast changing is that we've made, I think, 1.6 or 1.8 million in cuts in the last 12 months. So that's going to flow through on your forecast in the future because you're reducing your expenses, right? So when you run out of money changes, I don't know if that's what you're getting at, but
You
like,
said, stated, she did, the treasurer, whatever, stated, I think it's 10 years, if the levy passes, we'll be able to make it 10 years, but we'll need more money because we'll run out, or it's 7 years if we don't get the levy to pass.
It was something close to that.
Yeah.
I think
I
we
don't
were,
think we
Either
felt
way,
we
we're gonna
should
run
ask
out of
for
money.
more.
Either way, we're running out of money.
we were getting out 10 years assuming no growth in the income, but putting in inflation cost and our expenses going up by 3.5 or 4%. So I would assume that the income, that's where you were getting that negative money in 10 years, meaning we were actually burning cash in a fiscal year versus having a supply or extra cash at the end of the year. So, and I don't think she ever put it in black and white. We looked at it.
No, stated.
Yeah. So, because I was trying to get out, the goal for me as a board member was to get the district out 10 years so that you can plan out 10 years at a time. Not a lot of districts do that, but we were trying to be prudent. I was with your money and my money and say, hey, this is a decade we're going to be able to operate. And we talked about bringing some of the services back that we've cut and still be able to operate within those parameters. I mean, that was the goal when I set out looking at how much, the little amount that we could ask from the community and still make the district in the black out 10 years. That was the goal that I looked at personally. And that's what we try to get to.
And the I think you said there was mishandling of the COVID money put us in this position. That the money that was provided by the federal government, it's called ESSER dollars, were specified to be used in a certain way. So we had to use the funds in the way specified by the state, whether it be special services or whatnot. That money allowed us to fund or pay for some services that we already offered. So did it offset some of our costs while we were receiving some of those funds? Yes, it did, but it didn't put us in the position we're in now.
Probably kept us from asking for money sooner.
Yeah, probably kept us from asking for money sooner.
Who else would like to speak?
Hi, my name is Mike Kraft. I live here in West Milton. Some of these questions I think were already addressed, so. The levy that currently failed, or recently failed rather, that was for 10 years. That was going to be a 10-year income tax levy, right?
Right, earned income.
Earned income tax levy, right. Okay, just wanted to clarify that. And that you were looking for that to be for 10 years, or that specific levy, was that gonna be renewal or permanent?
It was a 10-year
It would be a
term.
10-year term, and then if we wanted to renew it, we'd have to go back to the voters.
That's the way it looked like to me on the ballot.
Yeah.
Okay. What year will the school be paid off?
2037.
2037 or 33?
There's a small portion, I believe, Justin has it right in front of him.
Yeah.
The COPS is what I believe draws out for a longer while.
Yeah.
The majority of it is.
Majority of them come off in 2032, it looks like.
2032.
Yeah. And then, but there's a larger note that comes due in 2037. The thought process behind the 10-year was to get our forecast out 10 years, to also be debt on the school, the majority would be paid off. We'd also know about the north side of the Stillwater Crossing and the south side filling out, what it was going to do with enrollment. It also bought time because those properties up there are abated, so we're not getting property taxes from them. Those would start being collected, and we could see them come through in the forecast. So that was the idea of going 10 years, was to kind of check all those boxes. And that was the plan.
You guys have had communication with the Village of West Milton on how they're gonna work that north side?
The only thing I've really been told is same as the south side.
It's gonna be the same as south side. They're
As
gonna
far as the
give an
abatement,
abatement
the
to them
TIF,
for so
yeah.
many periods,
And
and
that's-
then a longer abatement for businesses.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, if you're sitting here and you're trying to do a forecast and you have that big X factor, because there's some apartments on the north side and a lot of houses, you don't know how many students are going to influx from it. And then you also but you do know that you're not going to get revenue from it, right? Because it's
For a certain
abated.
period of time,
Yeah.
or permanently.
For
I mean,
that.
you're making it sound like maybe permanently.
No, I don't think it's permanently on the residential side. It's a 4-year abatement. And then it'll be 2 years for us to see collection, right? Because everything's billed in arrears with property taxes. So I was told, like, year 6 we'd start seeing it. But it comes online in phases too. It's when they move in. So if it takes 3 years to build out, again, we get back to that 10-year time window. And that's why we went for the 10-year term. That was, I feel like, our thought process. It was definitely my thought process.
Yeah. It appears that the south side's taking longer than they expected to build out. And the discussions that they've had at the village council, that I understand, the north side, they're wanting to make, I don't know if they were saying exclusively, but a lot of it, they were looking to have retirement, a retirement community of apartments, duplexes, or what have you. And I'm not sure if they were meaning that was gonna be all of it, or just a major portion of it, or whatever. But if it is, then that's not earned income, if it's retirement. Most likely, it's not earned income, it's retired people, so.
I heard differently. I heard
Yeah.
two to three bedroom,
Apartments.
market rate apartment. That's
Yeah.
not retirement.
Yeah, no, well, they were saying, they were targeting, at one point, in their meeting minutes, they were targeting that they were gonna, look for retired people in those apartments. And they were looking at, filling it with, higher income retired people, and because they were saying that they wanted West Mill to be a retirement destination as well as I don't want to get into all that, but that's just a lot of other stuff. And so I'm just wondering how much dialogue you've had with them so that you can try and plan these things, or is it all just going to be haphazard and willy-nilly and all up in the air, and you know, we're just throwing it stuff at whatever sticks, and if it don't stick, you go over and pick it up and try and mess with it after that. I would
can't
try and
speak-
get them to,
Yeah.
I would try and see if you can nail them down on planning. How can you plan if they're not planning, and if they're not planning, you know, so, you know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean,
think-
how often, how much is the initial development change from how it was initially presented to us? So there's a lot of unknowns. as far as how soon, how long it's gonna build out. You know, the first development was supposed to be custom homes, and then it went to Ryan Homes. So how are we supposed to plan for the unknown? You know, I think that is, a lot of it's up to the developer, from what I see.
And I'm still not clear, and maybe someone here would know, is how much the village controls what goes in there. I'm almost thinking, the way I read it, it's more developer controlled. So I don't know how much the village has say.
Yeah, and that's why I would.
And they're gonna use
I would
whatever they
look to
can
try and get
fill
some
the
leadership
fastest,
and
right?
some
If you're a
guidance, so
developer.
you guys could collaborate and get a plan together rather than just go, no.
They do let us know their plans, but ultimately we can't speak for them and they make that decision, like, we don't.
The
we
plans
don't-
change.
Yeah, but we don't get to,
We're not the decision makers.
yeah.
Yeah, well, I know they consulted with Mr. Ritchie, Dr. Ritchie, at some point, and on the south side development, before that all went in, and you weren't exactly sure if they had really come to you or not, and I think one of the council members were here at a meeting and said, yeah, well, we didn't tell you everything.
I don't have any recollection of that, but I do remember having a conversation with representatives from the village. I think we started having those conversations in the winter of 2016. Was about the first time I was formally brought into that. So at that time, I'm not even sure there's been any more instances of that, but
At
the
that time,
CRA
development
was
underway.
well, the CRA was underused, I think, village-wide
Yeah.
at that time. Maybe one might say that it was, I mean, it wasn't a secret, but there just weren't many folks that were taking advantage of that. So, and I don't think there was any TIFs at that time either. Like, so that was the first one. That was the first at-bat for the school district. That was the first at-bat for the village. And so we were learning along with them. And so I guess to bring this full circle and to not go down the rabbit hole on that, what we have done for the north side of 571 and development on that side is we have approached the village and said, Bradley Payne, we've approached Bradley Payne for, I've said it multiple times, that the board would be interested in seeing a proposal. So maybe at one time on the south side, there was something that we saw that was supposed to be, we were supposed to read it and consume it as a proposal. I'm not sure that we knew that was a proposal. So, and that's about it as far as the interaction that I have had with the village or one of its consultants regarding the north side development. So I am waiting to see that thing in whatever format, chart, just a kind of a traditional
Plan.
proposal narrative.
Yeah.
And at that point, it would be my responsibility to pass that along to the board. And we're not there yet, haven't seen that, so.
But what we do know for certain is it's TIF and abated, whatever is going in there as far as for the school, yes. And it's the same, they're using the same plan as they did on the south side.
And that's just for property taxes, right?
Yeah,
They're
it's,
still getting the income
the
tax
school
portion.
and the life squad is abated.
Okay.
So.
Do we have,
Okay.
we should probably move on.
I've used up enough time on my head.
Anybody else like to
I'll
speak?
save it for later.
Okay.
I appreciate you guys' input.
Justin,
And,
what is that
thoughts.
you have about the bond?
Um,
Public records request, what am I gonna ask for
It's from last year.
from 2023?
Yeah, or 20, I think it's actually 2022.
What's the, title on it? Like, how do you, what would I, what do you refer to that as, document wise?
It just says existing debt service.
Do we have anyone else though that wants to speak?
Hi, I'm Dave Gambrell, and I just want to touch on the transportation thing. I mean, how many buses do you guys run now to pick up kids?
6,
6.
I think.
Yeah, that's about right. We can revisit that later in the meeting. Mr. Brackman has another commitment, so he'll be in here sometime after 7. So we can confirm that for sure, but I think we're around 6.
That's what I was thinking, 5 or 6. But anyway, you guys have 22 buses, right?
Yeah, we have some spares, absolutely.
I
We
mean,
have a number of
you
buses,
should have
yes.
spares. I
Yeah.
mean, because they break down, you know, and maintenance, whatever. But 22 buses and you're running 6. I mean, I think you should sell some buses if you're not going to be transporting kids. I mean, that's a lot of money. You're talking $125,000 to $150,000 for a bus, a diesel bus. If you're talking electric buses, you're $500,000 a piece.
I don't think we get that.
We get like,
Oh,
is
pennies.
it like 10 grand?
Yeah,
I don't think it's 10 grand.
not even a trade-in. I think the last
He
trade-in
told me
we got was
last
like
week,
$1,700.
Well,
he told me it was less
Sell
than
them.
that.
I mean, what's the point in having them here rotten?
I mean, that is the long-term plan.
We were hoping potentially to bring back more busing services.
Yeah.
So this reduction, just happened this fall, so.
I mean, I personally feel like you were using the transportation as a strong arm against the citizen or the people who live here, to get the levy passed. And I think it's kind of ridiculous. I mean, that's not the way that things should be done. And I mean, here you are with 17 buses, they're just sitting, or 16. 17, 16 buses that are sitting, that you're not running. I mean, that's a waste of money. And they just depreciate every year, every day,
Yeah, I think I would need to confirm the trade-in amount.
I'm not
It
talking
is,
trade-ins, I'm talking sell them.
for sure. Well, but then we have to go, at the least, we'd have to go gov deals on that. And, I mean,
I've always just traditionally known them as trade-ins.
In my district, we average about 3,000 to 4,000 on a trade-in, so we did do gov deals, and our last 20 buses we sold went out of the country. Because they were non-emission, non-electronic, they bought $5.
There you go.
Well, again, I
That's all I
mean,
got.
yeah.
we were hoping, the idea was if this levy was to pass, then we were going to try to restore transportation and put a lot of those buses back in service. And then when we order a new bus, we would trade several buses in towards either the newly used bus or a new bus that we were going to use to retire an older bus.
I mean, I don't feel like you should be leveraging the safety of the children. I mean, you're talking kindergartners walking back and forth to school. You have first graders. Everybody doesn't have family in the community. So, I mean, you're leveraging the safety of kids to try to get your levy passed. And, I mean, it's just wrong.
Well, it wasn't, we didn't view it as a leverage point.
I think a lot of the people in the community do.
Again, it goes back to 75 to 80% is teachers, and you have 20% other, and transportation's part of that other. And we were trying to make the cuts proportionate so we could actually save some teachers for the kids.
I get that, but I'm
And-
saying that you're trying to get your votes by saying, well, your kids are going to walk to school. That's how I feel. A lot of other people feel, I think.
I think a lot of people would have said no matter what we cut, that it was to leverage, to try to get people.
Not really. The biggest thing is busing.
Yep.
The biggest thing is busing. So many people.
But you will find, like, if you look at like Graham and many other, like in Centerville's, if theirs hadn't passed, they were gonna go to the exact same busing schedule.
So
There's
they're
only
doing the
so
same
many
thing.
places to save money. And I think every single one is hurts our
What was
kids.
the amount that we were gonna save? Like, I still haven't seen that.
It's,
number.
It
so,
was 6 figures.
yeah, it's like 170.
Some of the biggest school districts in the state don't have busing. Lakota is one of them. They don't have busing.
Country though, like ours is, or is it?
No,
We're pretty big.
But like Covington, they're pretty rural. They got a 2-mile. Graham's pretty rural. They got a 2-mile. We're not alone.
Because Miami East still doesn't have high school busing, do they?
And I feel like if it affects people's income.
I don't know the
too,
answer to that. I'll
then-
have to check with her.
So I'm curious, if we spend $250,000 on busing, will we get any yes votes?
No, it's just, people were saying, boards telling us that I guess basically, in my opinion, how we feel. You're trying to say, oh, well, no, it's not. People, that was the biggest contention with busing.
Yeah, understood. So yeah, we're not gonna tell you how to feel. But, I mean, to your point, for us to be able to bring back transportation as it was, we would need the money to hire all the staff, the positions that we had to let go. And then we could put it all back. We could put two different bell schedules, elementary, and then middle and high school, and then you'd have the staggered start, so that we'd still have to double trip, right?
Why?
Because there's no place for the kids to go. I mean, we've got teachers that maybe have a 4-9 license that are in the elementary, right? So when the teacher is available, the kids also have to be available. You kick me if I've got this wrong. You're really good at scheduling. So, so we had to be on one bell schedule for that to happen. So I understand how that probably feels, but for us to reduce the deficit spending, for us to close that gap between revenues and expenditures, we had to be on one schedule. So we could, I mean, we're a service industry, so it's people that provide the service. So there were positions that we cut, or people that retired that we didn't rehire those positions, or folks went to other districts and we didn't rehire those positions. So the number of positions that we eliminated, it didn't end up being a very long list. But, I mean, do you remember how many positions there were, like full-time positions? I want to say it was like 12.
How big was that?
So why do you have to have a split schedule for that? I mean, why can't you run one schedule and have transportation for all kids?
I mean, the only way to do it, I think, would be we'd have astronomical class sizes.
Probably.
I mean, we'd have to put our heads together.
It's the same kids here every day.
That is correct. No,
If you run a split schedule
they'd be-
or one full, where everybody starts at this time and ends at this time, still the same amount of
Then we
kids.
would have needed double the bus drivers to continue the same transportation level.
Correct.
I think that's what.
Teachers are not.
Yeah,
going to
so
be
say
here
if we
to
just
start
took in
the first
everybody and
schedule
put them on
to
one
the
schedule.
Yeah.
would be the other.
As it was before, the bus drivers did the first route, they finished, they did the elementary. So if you went to one schedule, you'd have to double your bus drivers.
That doesn't make sense either, because they're going the same routes.
Yes, so we are
But they
busing
were
less
doing
children
2
this year.
routes.
Yeah, but there isn't high school busing.
Yeah.
So,
And that's fine.
so all the,
I'm more concerned about the little kids.
I got
You
you.
know, you get a 6-year-old walking to school, you know, crossing 571 or something like that. That's very dangerous. I mean, especially the time the school starts. You know, it's dusk. I mean, people wreck all the time. I mean, a little kid, what do they know?
So
You know?
when you say bring the busing back, you're actually talking about the radius that we pick kids up with.
Yeah,
Because we,
yeah, because you made it a mile and a half out.
Yeah.
And I mean, like me, I live right on the road like now. I mean, my kid's riding his bike to school. He's older, it's fine. But I'm talking like if I did have a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old that was in 1st, 2nd grade, and they had to ride their bike to school, I mean, that's not safe at all. I mean, is your levy really worth all that?
We have to run the school, so we have to have the budget. I mean, it's really not.
Did you add any positions in administration when you let all the people go, all the teachers and stuff?
What do you say?
I think we just rehired the one. I don't think
Oh,
it grew.
okay. No, we didn't grow.
We didn't grow.
That's all I got.
Okay. Who else would like to speak?
Good evening, I'm Troy Hahn, live on 480 Monroe Concord Road here in Troy, Ohio. 2 houses out within the Milton-Union School District, so that's why it explains the Troy address. It's been 11 months since I spoke, and Ms. McGill, I had a data request, and I was wondering if you were able to put the data together on the number of acres and the market value for the school district. You said you would get that information to me.
I'm
at the
sorry, when did you
December-
ask that?
Back in the December board meeting. Also, here we are at stage 3 in the terms of the levy failing, and the district says they do not have a stage in place in terms of when a levy fails. Unfortunately, this district is in a recession at the time. The staff who has lost their jobs is experiencing a depression at this time. And what I'm asking for tonight is to share with you, when you go in executive session and have discussions of cuts that are going to have minimal impact to student learning in the school. Due to the 3-minute rule that I have, we can save discussion later, or feel free to contact me. Dr. Ritchie, you have my phone number. Sources that I want to share with you tonight have been comprised from Roane County Schools in Spencer, West Virginia, Garmin Miller, Stonehill Research, Miss Sinaloa and Ansonia Accepted Village Schools, Fairborn, and Tecumseh. Also, a conversation I had with a board member at Springboro and a board member I know very well at Clinton Massey. So for positions that we do not know where the staff stands, the district that I reside in, or excuse me, not reside in, but worked in, had to pass the levy 9 times. And each time the levy went down, it became a hatchet job to certified staff and service personnel. Administration stayed the same. Under Dr. Rammel, 7, 8 years ago, the district had 8 full-time administrators. I believe we are now at 13. Stonehill Research says the district at this size should be using 11. So number 1, full-time athletic director. The district I worked in went from 3,600 students down to 1,600. That was done by a supplemental position to a coach or a teacher. Number 2, 2 assistant principals in this building. My building, as a pre-K through 8 principal, I had a head teacher when I stepped out. The board office was 35 miles away. I utilized my head teacher quite heavily. Number 3, an operations manager for a brand new school system with 1,300 students. Come on. Number 4, according to the CUP report, CUPP, the math scores in this district at certain grade levels are terrible. Not low, terrible. What is the curriculum and the instructor director doing? The current superintendent has a resume that shows curriculum and instruction. Number 5, Ms. Sinaloa and Sonia shares the same treasurer. Some school years, depending on budgets, they share the same treasurer through 3 school districts. Why does the district have this size, a full-time treasurer with 3 assistants, such as accounts payable, account technician, and assistant treasurer? I have 1,600 in my district, had a treasurer. That's it. Number 7, according to the state of Ohio, especially in Southwest Ohio, with new buildings that were constructed in the last 5 years, the majority of the buildings do not have libraries built in them. A couple superintendents in the Miami Valley are touring new school buildings for construction of levies that did pass. And for example, Fairborn Primary does not have a library built inside their school. They utilize things like their bookmobile, or they have aides, secretaries, or people, the service personnel that staff the library. If our librarian's in the situation, we have a position that comes over in English language arts. Let's look at that avenue. Number 8, do we need 2 elementary and 2 high school secretaries when middle school operates with 1? Just throwing that out there. 9, do we need 2 full-time high school and elementary counselors if we're going out and we're hiring social workers, this, that, and the other? And also in there, does the psychologist really need an assistant? Number 10, does the district need a behavior specialist? 11, do we need 2 staff members in the IT department? My district had 1. We utilized the high school students because I'll tell you, as a former teacher, turning to a student saying, make this device work for me. Works really well. We had students that excelled in our Cisco program. They were there to do non-confidential work, so if there was some confidential software and stuff that we installed, that's where the IT people came in. But 2, let's take a look at that. And last, number 12, the financial burden of preschool. We have some research that was sent out by the Stonehill Research, the 10, 12-year tracking, finding that they're not seeing correlation in terms of preschool for the development to where the kids are at by the time they graduate. So if we are packed solid into this school, is preschool really necessary? So my question on this part would be, what is the financial burden to the district with the current preschool situation that we have here? And last but not least, I'll leave this to the teachers. In the 25 years as a veteran myself, I'm heading to the exit door just as fast as anybody else. I pray for you. I do. I pray for you. I've been in here, let's see, been in this for over 15 years in terms of being in administration. And when I was in this part, I was promoted because they did not like calling me the ice man. So I took a promotion as a teacher to become an administrator because they had to pull me to the other side. But I'll give you some advice, teachers. Get yourself a strong union president, get yourself a strong grievance chair because you're going to need it.
Well, I
If
think
you want to talk further, please contact me. I'll be available for comment. Thank you.
I did have a question. Which district do you work with?
Rowan County Schools in Spencer, West Virginia.
Currently?
Currently.
Who else would like to speak?
And I will also add one thing too, to the gentleman that spoke about transportation. I have 64 buses in my fleet, 59 are on the road. The first set of buses hit the road at 4:30 in the morning, but the average high school student has to get from the south side of the county to the north side of the county. In an hour and a half, they has to connect 2 buses. I will tell you something that's coming from the new legislative body that started in January. And you laugh and exhale about it, it's coming. Ohio's talking about taking the 88 counties and making things such as county schools. It's about saving money. You deny it, it's coming. The people in West Virginia said the same thing. In 1993, all 57 counties consolidated. Yes, Charleston, the largest city in the state, is Kanawha County.
Are you proposing administrative cuts? Is that what I got?
I'm throwing ideas out there that will be minimal impact to student learning. As you cut teachers, you're going to increase the class size. And with my experience on master agreements, I'm pretty sure they have contract language that says when a class goes over a certain amount, teachers compensated extra. I know my district is $500 before taxes, so if you have a class set at 30 and it hits 31, they get a $500 stipend at the end of the school year for each student they're in. And it's set based upon high school, middle school, and elementary. I just know we have one counselor in our county, and they're in the elementary building on Monday, another elementary building on Tuesday, and another one on Wednesday. They shop it.
So aren't they gonna have to, I mean, you're asking them to do more with less, right? So wouldn't they want a larger salary?
I'm sorry?
If they want a larger salary, they're gonna have to do twice as much. That's what I mean. You know, like, so the admins that are left are gonna have to.
Let's try to, I think we do need to try to move forward. I don't want to debate if teachers deserve their salary or not right now. Is there anyone else that wants to speak? Okay, we're going to move on. Number 3 is the superintendent's report.
Well, this is going to be like a complete about face. So we're going to start with Dr. Nick Weldy, who's here this evening from the Miami Valley CTC. I think we talked at a previous meeting about having Mr. Weldy, Dr. Weldy, come in to just give us an update of how things are going at the Career Center as our partner. We have a lot of our students there. So take it away, and then maybe just time for questions if the board members have any questions.
Sure, absolutely. Well, good evening. As he said, Nick Weldy. I'm Superintendent of Miami Valley CTC. Milton-Union is a close district to my heart. My grandmother graduated from here back in the mid-30s. I lived in Ludlow Falls for a while. My family was over in Laura. I actually had the pleasure of working for the school for a little bit of time, so I got to know a lot of the folks around here and get a chance to kind of know the students and everything else that we have. I got a couple of handouts here for you. My wife says I get a little boring after I talk for a while, so just give you something to read, but I kind of roll on a little bit. So just want to talk a little bit about Miami Valley CTC, give you kind of an update of what we've been doing. Hopefully you're okay if I don't see it at the podium. I'm kind of
You walk and talk, that's
all
fine.
right, good, thank you. So what I handed out was just a couple of things. If you look at the larger white piece of document there, this is just kind of our district overview. So sometimes people are like, what does Miami Valley CTC do? And there's always a question, you know, a lot of folks will say, well, you serve junior and senior students. You have the juniors and seniors down there, they go down, they do a career program, and then they go on and they do lots of great things. But we do a lot more than that. We do adult education, so we do basic literacy, so the adults that are illiterate, that need to learn how to read, or those who are trying to get a GED, which that's kind of the old terminology, it's what's called the Aspire program now. For the GED program, we do that work as well. We cover a 5-county region, so Milton-Union is one of our 27 partner districts, but on campus, we actually have 51 different schools that are represented there. So there's a very wide range of schools that come. When we look at the geographic region that we serve, it's about the size of the state of Delaware. It's a very large area, especially with our adult education. We have folks that are coming from almost Indiana all the way down to receive some of those services. And in our adult education programs, where we're working with those adults, we usually see 2,000 to 2,500 adults every year. Now, that could be, again, doing GED work, but we also do a great deal of work with up-training folks who want to get welding or HVAC, that are doing construction trades. There's a lot of different ones. Also healthcare, STNA, phlebotomy. Those are all of our adult education programs. We have those programs, but then we also do satellite programming, which we have a number of those here that we do, and that also serves middle school students. Some of our districts will go down to 6th grade, and we'll do 6th, 7th, and 8th, all the way up to 12, but it just depends on the district and what the needs are. A lot of what we do with those programs depends on the district. We have conversations, what the interests of the students are, what the industries are in the community itself, to make sure it kind of reflects what the community's values are and where they want to invest. And then the smaller book that I handed out, that one explains our 43 different career tech programs. So this one is more of a guide. This is what we provide to students, so they can kind of see, you know, this is what the offerings are at Miami Valley CTC. It goes from everything from agriculture to aviation maintenance to construction to precision machining to welding. All of those are in here. Healthcare is quite a big section in that as well. So we offer a lot of different opportunities for those students. And interestingly, a lot of those have credentials tied to them. Great example is cosmetology. So before I came here, I stopped and got a haircut real quick from someone who went through our program. You know, and those folks, when they come to us, they go through the program, they're getting the required training to get their cosmetology license. If they would wait and do that after high school, whether it's after CTC or something else, it's about a $30,000 investment that they have to go and pay for cosmetology or barber school. Now, we provide that as a training that they can get done as their junior, senior year. So that's just one example. That's more on the extreme. We also have things that are doing programs like aviation maintenance, where they're getting FAA certifications in airframe at power plant. Literally, they graduate, get licensed at the federal level, and they're working on the airplanes that fly in and out of Dayton Airport. So that's the level of technical training that we're talking about. Some of those students can, in 4 or 5 years, be up to $100,000 just in that one program. So there's a lot of different ones that are out there for the students that have opportunities. A lot of healthcare interests, as I've mentioned before. There's a great demand in that area, and we just continue to see the students that are interested in more career development. I think as people are starting to see the cost of college and trying to determine if it's something that is you know, worth the investment, I think a lot of people are questioning that these days. You know, and I was one of those people when I came out of high school. I graduated from Covington. I live in Covington now. You know, I worked construction. I worked at Jackson Tube Manufacturing in Piqua. So you kind of went through there and you're like, okay, is this going to be worth the money and the investment? And for some folks it is. For other folks, it's not a good investment. There's a lot of great paying jobs that are out there, and this gives them the opportunity. But there's also opportunities if they want to go on to college. So it's not a and or, it's both. It just depends on what the student wants to do. And then we work with our partner districts and their counselors to make sure we put the students on the track to success. So there's lots of different opportunities, and just want to share a little bit about what we do. I was going to keep it fairly short because I figured there would be some questions. And I've got some of these extras that you can feel free to, anybody in the audience would like to take some of these, you're welcome to. I saw you take the pictures down there, so you just have your set.
Oh, okay.
Yep, here, you just take a set right here. Let's see.
Thank you.
So what questions can I answer from the board? Again, that was very quick. I have an idea that most people know what we're doing and what we're about in Miami Valley CTC. You might not run into us too much, but definitely part of the community.
Some of your coursework, can you get college credit plus for that? And do you have partner schools?
So College Credit Plus, we work with any college. It's the same arrangement across the state of Ohio. So whatever is offered really through Milton-Union we offer as well. I think last year we had over 9,000 semester hours that were awarded for free, that the students came through and earned those credits.
You have some articulation agreements with
We do.
Sinclair, or am I
Yes.
probably leaving several things out, but maybe,
Right.
to your point, there's other ways to get there than CCP?
Yeah, and one of those, I guess, we're the largest sending district to Sinclair in the entire state of Ohio. So we have a partnership with them for tech prep scholarships, so they get up to $3,000 scholarship, and that's the bulk of our students can do that. Not only the students that attend main campus, but also the satellite programs, they qualify for that too. So it's an instant $3,000 scholarship. So really, if that's your path, and again, that's not everyone's path, but if that's your path, you can go through, take some College Credit Plus classes. We also have some matriculated credit, as Dr. Ritchie mentioned. Go use that scholarship, and you can about have an associate degree for free. So it's a pretty good savings for someone who wants to head down that route to try to get to college and save some money and go that path. But then there's also a lot of opportunities at Sinclair that's not associate degree, that they've got a lot of great credential training there too. And you can go and use that scholarship towards those credentials, so that way you go right into the workforce and earn a really good wage.
Well, I think we're really lucky to have this strong of a CTC that we can utilize. I know you guys have expanded a lot. There's been a lot of construction out there. Is that all done, or is something still in process?
We got the grass growing right now. It's taken about 7 years for us to go through that whole process, and we had to remodel, so we had to do all that where we existed. So in the 7 years, we never shut down a program, and we never cut back on how many students we accepted. So we're very proud of that. It took a lot of creativity, but we made it work. So we've had great partners, and everybody's worked together to make sure the students have the opportunities that they need.
Has your student population been continuing to increase?
It is, and that's a challenge that we're going to have to solve at some point. Our incoming junior class this year, just juniors, was 1,250 students. So it's a large number of students that we're seeing. And we're always trying to figure out how do we serve more of those students, because that's really the trend. If you watch the national news, less folks are going to college. More are starting to trickle into the community colleges, but career centers are where they're learning that's the best bang for your buck. Because they can come there, they can get a lot of credentials in a lot of different fields for very minimal cost. So we see that demand growing, especially fields like welding. Welding is one of our hottest areas right now, and it's an awesome field to go down there and watch those kids get in there and just learn how to weld. We got a great instructor, got a number of young ladies coming in, which is kind of neat to see them in the non-traditional field. I don't have any of my male students from welding here, so I can say the girls are better. They listen, they follow directions, they're more articulate, and they're heck of good welders, so it's pretty impressive to see them do that work.
Other questions?
Very good. Dr. Weldy, thank you for being here. Are you okay with questions from the crowd?
If we can, go ahead.
Yeah, what's your acceptance rate?
Right now, we're probably in the high 80s, if I had to guess at this point. So we had 1,250 students that came in this year, and I think we were sitting about 1,400 and some odd applications in that ballpark. So, and some of them, they choose differently. We accept them early on, but then boyfriend, girlfriend happens, and they decide to stay back in the partner district, or they go back, or, sometimes the families move, or something like that happens. So.
Are there programs that you have that are, it's ultra competitive to be accepted into?
Welding is right now our top program, which is exciting to say, because that was one that people didn't understand that profession. And again, I keep going back to that, but precision machining, electrical trades, HVAC, all of those trades right now are just very, very competitive, because the students are really wanting to get into them. They see the great wage that you can make, and they start to see it's more artistry than it is just always working just with your hands. There's a lot of things that you can do and really make an impact.
A lot of effort in, if a student doesn't get his or her first choice, then see if we can accommodate them with a second or third.
Yeah, we always have a second choice, so when they apply, they put a first and a second, and they go down to that second choice, and if they don't have the second choice, we hang on to them, and they got usually all the way through August. Most of the time, we can move the kids in, but sometimes like welding or some of those, it's very competitive.
Yeah.
We're trying to figure out how to serve more students, but find those teachers, a welding teacher that's got the heart of a teacher and just the skills of a craftsman, there's not that many out there. It takes some time.
Sure, yeah.
And they got to jump through the hoops, and that's our job, is to make sure we get that right person in front of the kids, because that makes all the difference in the world. You had a question?
Yeah, can you give any information about the pilot program that you have for the sophomore students that you started this year? Are you going to have that next year too for sophomore students, or how did that come about? Or-
Great question. So I talked about some of the different things that we do as far as adult education. We also run an alternative school, so
Okay.
that's called Youth Connections, and we've
Okay.
done that since 2000. And our Youth Connections is really for students who are not on track to graduate. They're not moving the needle, and everybody's kind of concerned they're not going to cross the line. So what we do with that program is they come in and they get a coach, and we push them through that area. So what we started noticing is as we started seeing those students, they really were failing in their freshman year, and then they never gained ground back in their sophomore year. So that was really where we saw them slipping. So our Career Connections, which is a part of the Youth Connections, the Career Connections is for sophomores only.
Okay.
So we're catching them before they get so far in the hole that they can't get into our regular programs.
Okay.
And that's what we're starting to see too, is sometimes the students that need career tech, and again, we serve all ranges, but sometimes the ones that they're just disengaged from school, they need something, passion, excitement to get hooked. They weren't getting there because they had to focus on studies because they were so far in the hole. So what we've done is we jumped in and we kind of said, okay, we're going to focus you that sophomore year. We're going to put you with that mentor. We're going to have you do the coursework, but we're also going to have you rotate through 4 different career areas. And that's our carrot that we're going to hang in front of you so you can see what's next. Sometimes it's just not appealing for kids to go, gosh, I got 3 more years of school. And it just depends on the kids. Some kids love school, but some of these kids, they just need to burn off energy and work. So that's the carrot that we kind of hang in front of them as a sophomore. The other piece of it that's a huge piece, and if they can get themselves back on track to graduate, then they can have one of the spots in the other programs. So we hold 5 spots in every program for those kids to make sure they've got a pathway.
Okay.
And to show them that if you perform, if you come in here and you pull yourself up by the bootstraps, there's a chance for you.
Okay.
Whereas before they could have been so deep in a hole they didn't have a
Right.
shot.
So, I have a kid that's a sophomore, and he would have totally benefited from your program. How did I not know about it?
We didn't put a lot of advertising out there right now because we were just trying it, and we took about 65 kiddos this
Okay.
year just to kind of learn.
Yeah, because I see him, and he totally would have benefited from this program immensely. And I just feel like it's such a disservice now to him that we didn't even know about it, And I just wish I would have known about it.
Is he going to apply as a junior?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and he's doing better now this year because he's trying, he knows he wants to go there.
Yeah, use
but-
that carrot.
I know, but just to know as a mom that I try to be involved as much as I can,
Mhm.
especially try to know what's going on here at the school, and to know that I missed that offering or that opportunity for him, hurts my heart because now he's sitting here in his sophomore year and he could be flourishing at your program, right? And how did I miss it, And so hopefully, are you going to continue the pilot
Yeah, we're
next year?
looking at doing it
Okay.
again next year to kind of see how that goes. We're going to
Okay.
try to expand, and that's what, literally, I
Okay.
have a meeting tomorrow that's about 3 hours long, trying to figure out how do we do that without impacting the other students that want to get into the junior senior
Right.
program. So we're
Okay.
trying to balance the resources to figure out how to make that
Because I have a
work.
daughter that's a freshman, and she has heard about that pilot program and would love to maybe take advantage of that.
Yeah.
So, when would we know to apply for it or to get more information for it, or do we touch base with the guidance counselor
Yeah.
here? Okay.
Yeah, the guidance counselor is that link, and
Okay.
then they'll have a meeting coming up here at the end of the month. Actually, it's the first week of December, and we'll give them information about it. So then
Okay.
they'll know, and then you'll be able to.
Okay, because I was in contact with the guidance counselor last year in the springtime, and they never even said anything to my husband and I. So I wish that they would have told us about it, but I'll make sure that obviously now that I know, that I'll just touch base with the guidance counselor myself and just let them know that we're interested, so.
Absolutely.
Okay, and then are you on site at CTC too,
Yes.
that we could call you as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, awesome,
Yep.
cool, thank you very much.
No problem.
I
Nick
appreciate it.
Lowery. Yep.
Okay, thank you very much, I appreciate your help.
No problem. Any other questions? You let me off easy.
I think that's it.
Well,
Thank you for
we
coming.
made you wait a while, so I
I
mean,
understand. I understand.
I appreciate it, Dr. Weldy.
Conversations, and like I said, I have a lot of respect for the community here, so you guys are wonderful.
We are going to let Dr. Weldy stay as long as he would like, or we're going to let him walk right out that door if he wants to.
I would like to stay, but I've got someone in the hospital, so I
Oh,
can't
oh,
get out. So
all right.
I apologize for that, but
Thanks
otherwise
for
I would
coming.
stay.
Best
Thank you.
wishes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Absolutely. No, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
So right on the heels of that, we're going to bring up Mr. Watson, our high school principal, to talk about some of the credentials that are possible through the Career Center that are available at Milton-Union High School.
fault. I overlooked that this afternoon.
So, great timing following Dr. Weldy. That's a tall feat I've got to accomplish right there. But so I was asked to come in and talk about our credentialing programs that we have going on that we offer at Milton-Union. A lot of it is based off of students. We try to focus on students who don't make it into the CTC programs to give them an opportunity to earn credentials which would be transferred into the workplace. So making them more work ready, career readiness is the big focus with that. So if you're not familiar with the graduation requirements of Ohio, you have to receive the certain amount of credits deemed by the school, which our school district is 20, and then you have to receive a competency score of a 684 in Algebra 1 or English 2 and English 2 exams, and then from there you have to get 2 seals. The alternative path for your kids to graduate is to receive industrial credentialing. There's a 12-point system, and they have to be all in a certain silo, what they like to call silos. So if you actually look at page 2 where it says career fields, you have to have 12 points from one of those fields. And at Milton-Union, we're fortunate enough, we are really focusing on, since I came here a couple years ago, of building up our credentialing and trying to give all of our kids, especially our kids that don't make it to CTC and our students that are credit deficient and or cannot pass the Algebra 1 and English 2 exams, an opportunity to graduate and gain skills to go out to the workforce and be career ready. So if you turn actually to the next page, you'll see our industrial credentialing that we have here at MUHS. A lot of it goes through our CTC satellite teachers. We have 4 satellite teachers. We have a new one with Mr. Dittmer. We brought in informational technology. He has a new program, so it's going to take multiple years to build his program. If you look, he only offers one industrial credential that is there, which is IC3 digital literacy. You'll see in the parentheses there's numbers. Those are what the state of Ohio or the Department of Education and Workforce, they give you credits. So like that 2 means you get 2 of the 10 industrial credentials that come with that, passing that program. So you can see we have Mrs. Anderson, Mrs. Black, Mr. Dittmer, and Ms. Kimball. You'll notice that Ms. Kimball has more than the other ones because last year we started a program that specifically focused on credentialing for our students. So it's 8th period. We have students that come in and they're typically kids that are credit deficient and or did not pass the Algebra 1 in English 2 or that they didn't get into CTC. We want to try to get them some credentials and some things to put on their resume as they go out into the workforce. So that's why she has more than the other ones, because she actually teaches a class and they cover things like Rise Up, which deals with customer service. So it teaches kids how to interact with customers. It also have like the warehouse. They're learning about warehouse safety and things like that. We just had kids, about a dozen students, get forklift certified this past week, which is awesome. They had to take a written test, and then they went to Huber Heights, where they have the facility to do that, and they actually tested. They had to drive the forklift around through cones and all that kind of stuff. So the forklift certified. This spring, last spring we did it, we'll do it this spring too. They actually get construction. So what they do is they will take the occupational safety and health administration test to make sure they understand safety, and then actually we use one of our track barn out there. We'll bring in some equipment from CTC. CTC will provide it, and they'll learn how to construct, how to build with their hands, so a little bit of construction and safety that comes with that. So we do a lot to try to help our students that are here that didn't make it into CTC to receive those types of certificates or credentials, so when they go to the workforce, they're more employable than somebody else who doesn't have those credentials. There's also another path that's called web exams. That's the next page. So if they don't do the 12 points, they can also do the web exams, which a lot of our students who are enrolled into those CTC programs do take those web exams at the end of the year. They also can receive credentials for that. They also can receive certifications, and they can also receive College Credit Plus from Sinclair as well. So that is all wrapped up in there together. I would also like to note that the actual industrial credentialing class, we're the one of only 2 schools in the Southwest, well, in this area. Tri-County North is the other one. We actually stole it from Tri-County North and brought it here. They were the ones that kind of pilot that for us, and then we learned about it and we decided to bring it here as well. So Tri-County North utilizes this as well. It's all run through our CTC. They provide all that stuff. Some of this stuff comes at great expense as well. It's not very cheap to do the Rise Up. I think it costs anywhere like $200 per student to be take that test. CTC does help us cover that if they're enrolled into those credentialing classes. We do have a few students who are at an alternative placement at ACES that will have to do the industrial credentialing, and we'll have to figure out how to get them those credentialing points. But overall, it's been very successful for our kids. A lot of great things. Actually, they're in the middle of doing the Lead for Change right now, where they actually have to develop a program or to do some kind of community service project. Then they submit it to a board of Lead for Change. They are currently working on filling in for our Hope Squad. They are going to do some Hope Weeks activities, so they have to fundraise, they got to plan the activities, and then they have to institute the Hope Weeks and follow through with that, and then have a big project presentation with the board from Lead for Change. So they walk away with a lot of great things. You also see at the bottom of the industrial credentialing that CPR and driver's license do count. They're 1 point each. Every student does receive in health class CPR and AED training. We just make sure that they are renewed by their second year. If they're a senior and they're in that credentialing class, they get CPR again. And you see driver license also counts as a point. So the big challenge, though, is to make sure that we get all 12 points in that one, what we call a silo in that career field. You can't have like 3 points from business and marketing finance, 3 points from engineer field, 3 points from informational tech, and 3 points from agricultural environment. That's 12. You can't do that. It has to all come from one area. So we do try to make sure that we are touching and covering as many bases as possible to give students opportunities. If they're not strong in business, marketing, and finance, that they're getting it in the agriculture. Obviously, we're still developing our informational technology silo. That will grow as our program grows with Mr. Dittmer, because this is his first year. We have a limited offering of courses at that point. Is there any questions I can answer for you currently regarding our credentialing?
How many kids are utilizing this?
In the one period class that we have about 15 students in there currently, but the other students receive those credentialings through their CTC courses that they have here. So our STEM course, our business course with Mrs. Anderson, Ms. Kimball still has her agriculture classes. They receive credentialing in there as well, and as well as Mr. Dittmer's information technology. So, I mean, a lot of our students are in those classes for elective purposes, because they do have to receive electives to graduate, so a lot of our students are being exposed to these credentials throughout. Not all of them are getting the 12 because they don't need the 12, but we do ensure that we're given the opportunity to take those web exams and receive those credentials.
Okay. Thank you.
I think this is a softball, okay? So at one point we had talked about work study for the kids that were ready, maybe in the second semester. That's still on the table. Anybody
so
on
we have
track
to utilize flex credit to be able to do that. Actually, I had a conversation with a student today who wants to have another early release, an extra early, because they have a job at a body shop in Sydney, and they're interested in doing that. So we actually are going to sit down with them in December and create a flex credit plan, which is approved by the state of Ohio, that they can go out. We'll have like a demonstration mastery, so they'll give me a presentation or they'll turn in timesheets and stuff like that. We can give them credit for going out and working in the work field. So that's something that's the next step for us. We're progressing towards that. I want to utilize flex credit more for our students to be able, especially our juniors and seniors that have the ability to drive and they're on track to graduate, to get them that opportunity to go out there in the workforce, get an early start in their career, and give them some credit for that. So that's the next progressive step for us. Hope the tests run out a little bit for the few students this second semester.
Good?
Yep.
Questions? Mr. Watson, that was fantastic.
Can I ask a question from like a parent side? If the student is on the pathway, do the parents know about it?
What can you explain? Like the credentialing pathway?
Yeah, because my kids, I have a freshman and a sophomore, and they're in ag class or FFA class or whatever, and I'm not even sure how they got in there. I mean, I guess they're just using it as an elective, but if my kid was, per se, on the pathway, do you notify the parents that they're on the pathway?
So students who, if students are, do not meet the the testing scores, we talk to the parents saying, hey, this is what's going to happen. This is what we have to do to try to get your student to graduate on time. So So your oldest, I'm just speaking for your oldest, he's a sophomore
Right.
now, so we
Yeah.
will find out English 2
Okay.
in the spring.
Gotcha.
But if he's at CTC, they have the same thing, so they'll get credentials. So even if he doesn't pass the English 2, I'm not saying he
Okay.
will, I don't mean, he still will get that credential at CTC.
Okay.
But they do have to try to take it twice.
Okay.
So usually we don't find that out until late junior year,
Okay.
senior year, if they need to be on that path.
Gotcha, but the parents are like included in knowing.
Yes, we let them know, like, hey, your student's gonna need this, this is what we're gonna offer to get them
Okay.
on that track.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, because that's helpful as a parent. Honestly, we missed out on this pilot
Sure.
program, so I definitely want to make sure that I'm not missing something that I shouldn't be missing, right?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So, and obviously, my 2 older ones are obviously my older kids, so I'm like, baptism by fire, and then by my third kid, then I'll know what I'm doing, right?
Absolutely.
When he gets in high school, but I'm just kind of like being baptized by fire right now.
Sure.
Trying to figure it all out,
Yep.
so.
Yeah,
Okay.
so if a student because we do retesting the junior year, the December of the junior year,
Okay.
then we get the results back in January. We'll know if the student is on track or not, and
Okay.
then we will go
Gotcha.
from there. But if
Okay.
they're on track and they got the test scores, we typically don't inform like, hey,
Okay.
this is what they're getting in the ag class.
Okay.
It is in our program studies,
Okay.
but we don't typically advertise like, hey, they got 5 credential points
Right,
for
okay.
advice.
So right now, just likely my kids are in it for elective purposes
Correct,
only
yes,
right now?
yes.
Okay, gotcha, thank you.
Yep.
But they could keep going.
Yeah, they can keep going if they want.
If they want.
So
Absolutely. There's no
choices to make, and a student could fill his or her schedule with agricultural courses throughout the entirety of
Correct.
the high school experience.
Yep. We have, I think at this time, 4 to 5 ag culture classes, so they can take 1 per year. I think there is one that's like a combination, it's more of an independent study. Just like STEM, I believe we have 4 courses as well. Business, we have 4 courses as well, and eventually we'll get to the point where our information technology has 4 courses, so they can take 1 every single year and build upon that.
So what if the kid gets into they go into a silo or whatever, and because they think they're gonna like it, right? Like they're in ag or whatever,
Yeah.
and then they end up like hating that class, first
I'm sorry to
Get over to
interrupt, but we do have a lot of meeting to go since
Sure.
Dr. Weldy, I know he's not on site here,
Absolutely.
but since he is here, I think that might be best.
Okay, yeah, I'll
Absolutely.
touch base with you.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Same deal for Mr. Watson. We're going to let him stay as long as he'd like, or he can walk right out the door.
I can use the restroom. I'll be
All right. So now, again, another about face. Annie Blankenship, elementary principal, is going to talk about, I guess, a family-community partnership opportunity, relationship opportunity that she's excited about, and some other employees in the district are excited about it as well.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here to share about this new initiative. It is called Watchdogs, Dads of Great Students. And it first introduced to me through Justin Moeller, one of our bus drivers and parents in the district. He was involved in it at his children's previous districts. So the program is a family engagement initiative to increase positive male role models and to provide an extra set of eyes and ears to support building those positive relationships and reducing bullying. My thought with how to implement Watchdogs would be to help utilize their support during recess and lunch, eating with the kids, playing football with the kids, outside at recess, arrival and dismissal for crosswalk and car rider duty, supporting that flow of traffic. And Dr. Ritchie and Curtis do a great job, but some extra hands would be great. And then they can also support with academic areas. So reading with the kids, math, facts, practice, things like that. My goal is to continue to increase family and community engagement. This year we've had several Wright State students come in and tutor with the kids. We also have several volunteers led by Mary Bauer, our literacy coach, and they support students with reading foundational skills. Families were also highly involved during our Halloween parties and other classroom gatherings. So I know that our families are eager to get involved. I think Watchdogs would be a great way to be intentional about including our male family members. And I would estimate maybe 90% of our volunteers are women, so to have a focus on males would be something positive for our kids. But I'm definitely excited about this. Justin Burks had some experience with this in his previous district, and they kind of adapted it to fit their needs as a district. But I've had many family members reach out to see how they get involved, and I think this would be a great way. So I did pass around a handout that kind of explains a little bit more about the program, but I'd be happy to answer any additional questions or thoughts you may have.
So the purpose in bringing this to the board is just for the sake of awareness, because we wanted to make sure that the board was okay with this before Annie started hitting this really hard. getting information out, trying to recruit folks that can assist with this, and, interested males, interested fathers, parents, and family members. So the purpose of this is just awareness for right now for the board.
Are the watchdogs males, do they have to have a relationship with a kid in the district, or is it just any male within a community that would be interested?
So it's mostly dads, uncles, grandpas, so it's people that have a relation with a student in the building, but that doesn't mean that we can't open it up to community members.
I'm sure they'd have a background check, absolutely.
Yes, the program, they go through a whole training process. There's a startup part of it where there's official training, background checks are done, they get official gear that says they're a watchdog. So definitely, every box is checked.
And when would this be implemented?
I'm hoping to hit the ground running second semester. So start to recruit in the next couple of weeks before Christmas break. And then see. I already have a few parents that are interested, just from word of mouth.
Here comes another softball, okay? So we had a really great response from the grandparent event. So we were thinking about maybe doing something else around Christmas.
Yes.
But we're talking about that. So, this is, this is a commitment to try to, it's one of those things, if I'm being completely honest about this, we got ourselves in a rut with, post-COVID, and we never really got back on track with getting people in here to assist in classrooms, or grandparent events, things like that. But our hidden agenda is always going to be literacy.
Yeah.
So the point of having to fund, the point of all the donuts and all of that was to try to find a way to elevate the importance of literacy. So that's, I think, our hidden passion, our hidden agenda here. But we're thinking about something again around Christmas, but also after the first of the year, as Mrs. Blankenship said, try to get this off the ground.
It's not something we have to adopt by a vote. You just
I don't think so.
Putting feelers out there.
Yeah.
I'm all for. It sounds like a good project, good opportunities to get people involved, and yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think they had, my son actually started at Tri-County North, and I think they had it. It seemed like it was well received.
That's great. Yeah, I heard, lots of great testimonials that you can read about online and see. I'm excited, and I think, our students need that positive male role model, which isn't always, present. So this is a great opportunity to make sure all students feel heard and seen and valued.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. So that's, unless there's other things that you want to discuss or other questions you would want to entertain, I'm done. I've said enough through them, and I'm sure there'll be some things that come up later on in the meeting that I'll chime in on.
We should probably move forward. We got a lot to go.
Yep.
For Treasurer's Report. A, approval of the Board of Education minutes for October 21st, 2024, regular meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Ginn Parsons?
Yes.
Mrs. Brumbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Kress?
Yes.
Mr. Diaz?
Abstain.
Dr. Hinkleman?
Yes. All right. B, recommend approval of Board of Education minutes for November 11th, 2024, special meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes.
Mrs. Ginn Parsons?
Yes.
Mrs. Brumbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Kress?
Yes.
Dr. Hinkleman?
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0.
All right. C, approval of October financial report. Recommend approval of the October financial report.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. I always pull this up and I forget to keep going through it, so if there's still information you want to see, just let me know. Okay, so first let's go over the October financial information. As I was going through this, I was looking at some of the budget information that I had from the previous month, and I noticed a small error on the first report that I would present. So good news is I presented the actual numbers. This report was just slightly off, so it's just worth mentioning. So as you can see in the general fund, it was a little less than $100,000, less than what we had expected. The general fund revenue there under the October column came in a little bit under, and expenses were just a couple $1,000s higher. So we can go ahead and go through the variances there. Go ahead and let's go right over to the notes. So the income tax that the collection that came in October, at this point was just under $11,000, less than what we had forecasted. And while it was higher than what was received in 2023, we still had to make a little bit of an adjustment. Some of the state revenue had come in a little bit higher, but it was immaterial to the conversation. So the actual revenues as of October 31st were $64,000, or approximately 1.03% lower than budgeted. We'll be going over the 5-year forecast update. So these numbers are coming back from the May 2024 forecast. So there'll be some updates to the budgets that are coming. Line 3.01, personnel services, were about 1.96 higher than budgeted. So we'll make an adjustment to the November forecast, and I'll continue to dig in to where the slight variance is at. Worth noting on the line 3.02, which is the retirement and insurance benefits, are about $47,000 lower than budgeted in the forecast, or about 3.72%. Open enrollment that we just finished up for coverage effective January 1st of 2025. There was no significant changes, no large enrollments, not a lot of people coming off the plan. So this line should remain pretty steady as long as there isn't any significant changes in staffing. Supplies and materials, as I stated before, they are still a little bit, it is still coming in lower than budgeted, but I do anticipate these supplies and materials will still be needed just throughout the course of the year. Overall, actual expenditures for that month were just $1,000 higher than projected on the May 2024 forecast. And as I shared earlier, the ending cash balance was about just over 1.06 lower than forecasted. The next couple reports are the cash summary reports, noting the general fund with a fund balance of $6.139 million, which now matches up with what is on the first report that was presented. A few comments I wanted to make about the investment report, and Justin, feel free to chime in. I know we talked about this a little bit on Friday. So at the top of that page, you can kind of see all the accounts where we have cash lying, and then the bonds, the CDs and government bonds. You have almost $2.8 million tied up in those bonds. But what I wanted to point out is those last 3 lines, or the last 5 lines, but 4 of them have balances. That cash is sitting in the Bank of New York, and then our Huntington bond accounts to pay the bonds for the district. Noting the very last account that has over $1 million balance per the terms of the bonds, we have to keep a reserve of about $1.04 million in that account. So that's why that account still stays pretty high. The other account, why there's always so much money into the STAR account, that is usually yielding the highest at this point. It fluctuates with the market, but tends to be higher than any of the other accounts that we hold funds in. And traditionally, school districts will keep the money in STAR that is specific to government agencies in Ohio. Going down under the CDs and government bonds, you can see at the very bottom that 4.21% Right now, analysts are watching the market to see when the recession is going to happen. Currently, short-term investments are yielding higher maturities right now. So we've kind of been investing more short-term, and it has benefited us. We will have to watch once the market turns to see where we want to pull some of the funds and reinvest them at higher maturity percentages. So as you can see over time, the green line is those multi-bank securities, those bonds that we just talked about. You can see obviously where COVID was, and also with STAR, you can see where COVID was, where it was almost down towards between 0 and 1% of interest, and multi-bank was faring a little bit better during COVID, so that's where some of those investments were. Now we're up over the 5% for Star Ohio, but again, we need to keep track and watch what the market is going to do. And I'll go over a little bit more of that in the 5-year forecast. The lunchroom receipts revenues were slightly higher than expenditures, which is pretty typical about this time. And then, of course, the disbursement summary of all the checks that were issued during October. Does the board have any questions? Okay. Roll call. Mr. Diaz?
Yes.
Mr. Kress?
Yes.
Mrs. Gim Parsons?
Yes.
Mrs. Broomball?
Yes.
Dr. Hinkleman?
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0.
D, 5-year forecast, recommend approval of the fiscal year 2025-2029 5-year forecast and assumptions as required by ORC 5705.391. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Just one real quick comment on the PowerPoint presentation. What I had uploaded, the PowerPoint presentation is full of lots of formulas. What I uploaded on Friday, something went awry on slide 8. So if you printed it off on Friday, there's a whole bunch of gibberish on there. So if you need a copy of what that slide 8 should look like, please let me know. Okay, I'm going to flip back and forth between the PowerPoint presentation, and then I want to go over just a real simple view of what the 5-year forecast is looking like. So as we stated, the 5-year forecast is going to cover July 1st, 2024 through June 30th of 2029. 2029, so 5 years out. Why is this required? Ohio Revised Code requires the treasurer to present and the board to approve in November, and then an update in May of each fiscal year. Remember, our school district runs on fiscal years. Currently, we're in fiscal year 25, which covers July 1st of 2024 through June 30th of 2025. Generally speaking, the general fund is what makes up the 5-year forecast, and there are a couple of other activities that can be included in there, but for the sake of the conversation of the district, general fund is where we're at. So what does the 5-year forecast provide? It's a method of engaging the board and basically making sure you guys are paying attention to the financials, which we've had to do a lot over the last year since I have been here. It provides that the funds are there to pay for the obligations that we have made. And then at the bottom to provide a method for the Department of Education and auditor to identify what districts may have some potential problems looming. So within the 5-year forecast, it's a management tool to periodically keep everybody updated. When I give my monthly reports, the budget amounts that we go off of for each month, cumulatively between each month, between May and November, is driving from the 5-year forecast. So within the 5-year forecast, the big elaborate spreadsheet is a little cumbersome, so we do provide some notes and assumptions that are uploaded to the state of Ohio. So there's some key line items or sections within the 5-year forecast. You have your revenue and your expenditures. The revenue is made up of two sources, your local taxes, and then your state funding. The expenditures are divided up into salary, wages, benefits, purchase services such as services with the ESCs, and then supplies and materials. I think I'm going to kick over to this easy real quick. Man, it's so boring the superintendent walks out. That's fun. Okay, so this is just a simple view of the many lines that are included within the 5-year forecast. And as you can see, this may look familiar to some. I presented this in the School Finance 101 as a preliminary draft to those that were in attendance with the board. I have cleared out the passage of no levies, so this still is containing the income tax that did not pass. So over the course of time, you can tell there's two main line items that I really pay attention to when we're putting this together, is this line called over-under and the reserve cash balance. So what is the over-under telling you? If your expenditures are either exceeding or below your revenue. So you can see in fiscal year 25, the revenues that we're able to put back, the revenues are exceeding the expenditures, so we're able to put back, I'm predicting approximately $282,000. It goes down a little bit in fiscal year 26, and then we're back to deficit spending in fiscal year 27, 28, and 29. While the district still remains, is left with a positive cash balance for these years, it was really, really important that the district passed the levy that we were not able to get through. So the cash balance is going to continue to dwindle. So that's just a snapshot. If you want to look at the full forecast, it is available on board docs. But I just wanted to provide a very quick and simple snapshot of it. Okay, so where are these numbers coming from? Just 1 second. The beauty of dual monitors. Nick, where are you?
He was right around the corner.
Huh?
He's right there.
It's not gonna fit. Come on, sorry guys. Right here? There we go. Thank you very much. Okay, so basically this graph tells the story of what I had just explained. The expenditures began to exceed revenue in fiscal year 27, and that's when we kind of realized that there was an issue and we needed to start thinking about the levy that had been put on in the 3 attempts that were not successful. So as I stated, there was the cuts that were board approved caused the district to not deficit spend in fiscal year 25 and 26, but it is still proceeding to do so after that. So just real quick, what are our areas of exposure? The state foundation payment is running on a biennium budget, and we'll go through that here in the notes in just a second. But I wanted to point out the sources of revenue for Milton-Union. So you have your state foundation, your other state payments, your other locals, your PUP tax, which is your utility tax for the utility lines that kind of run through the district, and then real estate taxes. This is just another graph to show the ending cash balance dwindling towards that negative amount over the next 5 years. We will go through this here in just a minute. As I kind of glance through the notes real quick, I wanted to get to the general fund expenditures. Wages are running right at 52% and benefits just right at 23%. While these two areas combined are under 80%, it's still ideal that we need to get that drop down a little bit further to help curb that deficit spending, not just within wages and benefits, but maybe some other areas of concern within the budget. We'll go through this here in just a minute. So you can see we divide the expenditures up based on objects. So you can see wages in red, benefits in blue. Just another way of looking at the expenditures. We'll go over that here in just a minute. Okay, so I want to go through the notes just real quick. I know this is kind of, it can be kind of boring, but I just want to go over a few things. As I described earlier, the inflation rate, we are watching with the market, and the Feds dropped it down. Hang on one second. I'm sorry. There's a 40-year high back in June of 2022 at 9.1%. In August of 2024, the inflation rate is now at 2.53%. I want to talk a little bit about House Bill 33, which is the Fair School Funding Plan, which is where all the state foundation payments come through. So in fiscal year 25, state foundation will be at the 66% funding mark. However, the important part to this is the final 2 years of the phase-in aren't guaranteed based off of what is going to go on in fiscal year 26 and fiscal year 27. Why is that important for the district? Because as I stated earlier, the amount that the district receives from the state is at risk in this, which provides future uncertainties.
What year is it uncertain? 26, 27? 26
and 27. Mm-hmm. So in the forecast, they kept it steady. The forecasted revenue started in fiscal year 25 to make sure that we stay within target of what we have already been guaranteed.
Has there been any discussion in the legislature as far as what we could anticipate in 26, 27?
So we were at our legislative meeting, and I have not heard any further updates on it. They were told to hold stagnant of what the current expenses are, all areas of government across Ohio. So not just schools, but your, what was the one example that Huffman used? Was it Medicare, I think is funding of Medicare. They were told to hold everything steady. Like there were no changes, no fluctuations. But in the conversation that we had, Senator Huffman had said that there was already a 6.2% increase that they were going to need. So where are they going to take it from? One pot of money, take it from schools and put it into that? That's uncertain. We haven't heard any updates on that.
So is your five-year forecast based upon that stagnant period?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yep. So going line by line, would it be best if I pulled up the 5-year forecast, or okay, let's just go through, we'll just go through real quick. So the line 1.10, just a couple of notes on each one of the lines.
Carrie, will you just go ahead and pull it up and put it on
absolutely.
there?
Yep, I just didn't want to be overwhelming. Absolutely can. Okay, so here's the lines over here that I'm going to be referencing. And you can see right here, here's the forecasted amount for the 5 years that we're going over. Okay. Okay, so as you can see, so first off, starting, Milton-Union is not at the 20 mil floor. So the only increase that we could potentially see is the inside millage that we have available. Another comment worth making is the development. We hit in on it earlier that it is on a 4-year abatement. It's in a community reinvestment area, which is also known as a CRA. They'll be abated for 4 years on residential and for 15 years on commercial. So there's several question marks around that, but we'll keep an eye on it to kind of see when those properties start coming on the tax rolls. Okay. Still keeping with that area, the 5-year forecast, the revenues. There is a reevaluation within the county that happens every 6 years. So tax year 25, which will be payable in calendar year 26. Jess, I did check with the county auditor, and those are available to view each year on January 1st of 20, whatever year you're looking at. So those reappraisals should be available for viewing 1/1 of 26. So that's worth noting. Again, we're on the 20 mil floor, so the levies that we have in place, aside from the inside millage, there won't be any changes in the revenue stream that is coming in for those, unless the abatements start coming on. Okay, the line 1.02, just right around, just under $1 million for this district. There is slight percentage increases that are built into there. If we are taking a look at line 1.03, the income tax, we stated earlier, it's allotted to 92% PI and 8% of collections go to the general fund. We're predicting that the tax amounts are starting to level off from the pandemic, and we will assume a growth rate of 1% for fiscal year 25 through fiscal year 29. Again, the growing concerns of inflation and the market changes happening.
Can I ask a question real quick? So is that the 8% or the 8% of the 1.25%,
Part of
right?
it. Mm-hmm.
1.03,
Mm-hmm.
right? Okay.
Yes. Yep, that goes into the general fund from that.
Thank you.
Okay, taking a look at line 1.035, this is some of the state foundation that is coming in. So as you can see, there's a slight increase into there built in. However, we really have to watch the biennium budget because the state operates on a biennium budget. So there are, let's see, two budgets that are uncertain, two budget cycles that are uncertain within this forecast. Okay, restricted state grants. Again, this has been flatlined as well due to the uncertainties that are coming through. Some of these, I should note up here on unrestricted grants, state grants, there is a little bit of flexibility just due to the promises that were made from the state, but there's not much growth built in beyond 27 and 28 and 29. Ben, you had asked about that earlier.
But there is growth built in?
A little bit, not much at all, because what happened is the state had said that we would receive no less than what was given to us in fiscal year 22. So there's also fluctuations in there based off of, there was the 3 guarantees that they allow. So whether you are on or off the formula, which we are a formula district, and then supplemental targeted assistance and formula transition supplement. What they are allowing for is there's a 6-year phase-in of the Senate bill that came on through. They extended it through 24 and 25. But the Fair Schools funding plan does not include gaps in funding. Instead, it consists of general phase-in percentages for most of the components in fiscal year 25. 26, 27, 28, and 29 is where the uncertainties lie. So there's, like I said, there's a small amount budgeted in, but not much. The other revenues, so the state share of local property taxes, I'm sorry, I jumped around a little bit, on the 1.05. So that's the amount that the state will pick up for any homestead or rollback exemptions that are provided to property owners. Those are built in, a slight increase built in just depending on when those payments come in. Let's go down to all other revenues, 1.06. While not a large amount of the budget, this can be for open enrollment, tuition for court-placed kids, student fees, and other general rental fees that we have. So worth noting, we've talked about it, open enrolled students are counted based off the school that they are enrolled in and educated in. It's not, the money follows from the district of residence into like Milton-Union, for example. The money comes straight to Milton-Union. Also included in this line, there's some interest income from our investments that we have. Those are deposited into the general fund, and again, we have to watch for the market review that could potentially happen. Okay, moving on down to expenditures. The forecast has a 2.13% built in for fiscal year 25 and a 2% increase built in for wages for fiscal year 26 through 29. An additional 1.8% is built in for step increases, or a teacher can move across columns based off of their degree advancement that they may receive. Included in line 3.02, which is employees' retirement or insurance benefits, we have built in an 8% increase for employee insurance, and of course also built into this is the 14% obligation that we have to pay to ST and SERS. Also built in there is workers' compensation amount, and then the obligated 1.45% to Medicare.
Carrie, can you go back up to the income tax?
Sure can.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I'm trying to figure out how you got there. Because I take what the state has and do 8% of that, and I get 241,000. I'm just making sure that I'm doing something.
Can you
right.
repeat what you just said?
So that's for fiscal year 25, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I keep getting 241 when I do it.
What percentage increase are you using?
I'm using what the state said for 2025, or what they're estimating. So I'm just trying to figure out if you're estimating a different number.
Let me.
Just let me know.
Yeah, I'll look
That
into.
is
Let me
not-
look into, because there's a whole another tab on this, and
I just wanted
look
to
into
say
it.
something so I don't forget.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, purchase services. This encompasses a large amount of this is our contract with the ESC, where we provide services mainly for our special ed kiddos who need extra supports, our gifted services, the additional classrooms that we need at the Cooperative Learning Center, the seats that we need there, and any of the aids that we may need in the building. I know I've said it several times. The needs for students has increased significantly. We have a couple of students down at the Warren County ESC, so of course these expenses and the transportation to get them down there has been included. So we've went ahead and increased this line to accommodate those changes. Supplies, real quick, there's a 3% increase built in from year to year on this particular line. There's not much in the second line capital outlay and equipment because of the permanent improvement fund that is in place. That fund typically covers these expenses. We've built in a 1% annual increase. Other objects, line 4.30, this may include auditor fees, treasurer's fees, any professional organizations that we're required to belong to. We have built in a 2% increase over the years for each one of those. When we have to pay for our portion of the levies that we put on the ballot, that also comes out of this fund right here. Some of these transfers that you see, just real quick notes, support for Fund 035, which is what we use to pay for severance payments for those that are retired, or any other payments we have to that are obligated to pay per the contract should someone leave the district. As you can see, this line right here, we discussed that we start deficit spending in the third year of the forecast. And this line down here is our unreserved cash balance as it continues to decrease. Any questions?
Kind of looked at this in the last couple of months a fair bit.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like a broken record, but I want to feel like we're comfortable with it.
I only have one question. What's driving the majority of the increase in 2029?
As far as expenditures?
Yeah, it just seems like, I thought when I was looking at it, it kind of takes off. Is that just the assumed 3%?
I think it's a combination
What
of.
are we putting in healthcare?
Healthcare is 8%.
Yeah, I think I just read that Ohio's expecting 9.
Overall.
Is that what I read today? Yeah.
Public firms as well.
Yes, it's 9% for public.
Yeah, thank goodness we were in with the EPC because that helps.
It'll still be 9.
I think it'll. A couple years ago, we saw what a 23 to 26% increase in our health insurance costs. So we'll see. People have started to go back to the doctors from COVID, and while it's not 100% terrible, there is work that still needs to be done, for sure.
So if you're at 8% and we're at 4.
There's going to be a weighted average in there because some of it is.
Well, there's $250,000 to $300,000 of increase just annually on the health insurance. And we're showing revenues flat.
Close. Mm-hmm.
And tax revenues. I guess what I'm getting at, without additional funding or some kind of growth in our existing funding, we're going to be in a situation of cutting.
Unfortunately, the district hasn't seen a significant.
Just because of increases that are already being baked in on us.
The district hasn't received a significant revenue source in 20
it's
years.
just the reality of what we're facing when we look at a budget.
I hate to keep blaming COVID, but I truly believe it helped expedite it.
I mean, holding the line on spending is not enough because you're being ratcheted up everywhere else.
Mm-hmm. Fuel cost, supplies, material. I mean, papers. Purchase services, yes.
To me, it looks like we need to decrease expenditures another 400 to 600, looking at the way it goes at 2027.
25, 26, yep, there's fiscal year 27.
About 600,000.
Right.
Roll call. Good.
Excuse me.
Mr. Diaz,
Yes.
Mrs. Brindle,
Yes.
Mr. Kress,
Yes.
Mrs. Gim Parsons,
Yes.
Dr. Hinkleman.
Yes.
5-0.
5 other special reports, A, NUEA. B, OAPSE.
No OPC rep here this evening.
6, agenda confirmation. Are there any additions or deletions?
Yes, there is a quick change that was done to the consent calendar. The supplemental grid read 23 and 24 school year. That should have been 24, 25 school year. And also, an addendum was added under new business. Would have helped if I printed off the most up-to-date agenda. It was added under new business, the addendum to the Miami County ESC contract. I'm sorry, not an addendum to the contract. It's an addendum to the agenda.
Okay. Recommend approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Diaz,
Yes.
Mr. Kress,
Yes.
Mrs. Broomball,
Yes.
Mrs. Gim Parsons,
Yes.
Dr. Hinkleman.
Yes. 7, old business. Do we have any?
No.
Okay. 8, new business. Appropriations amendment. Recommend approval of increases and decreases in total appropriations for fiscal year 2025 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Diaz,
Yes.
Mrs. Gim Parsons,
Yes.
Mrs. Broomball,
Yes.
Mr. Kress,
Yes.
Dr. Hinkleman.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0.
All right. B, alternative tax budget. Recommend approval of the following resolution. I need to read all that.
I move to dispense with the verbatim reading of this resolution and make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Mrs. Broomball,
Yes.
Mr. Diaz,
Yes.
Mr. Kress,
Yes.
Mrs. Gim Parsons,
Yes.
Dr. Hinkleman.
Yes. Okay, C, generator maintenance contract. Recommend approval of the generator maintenance contract with Cummins Sales and Service for a period of 5 years with a total amount of $13,325 and 23 to be paid out. Classroom facilities maintenance funds, 034. Year 1, 2,792. Year 2, 2,580. Year 3, 2,580. Year 4, 2,792. Year 5, 2,580. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Do we use them before?
Have we had this contract before? Is this new?
We've had it before. Last time we had it was in 2020.
It ended in 2020? Gotcha.
Yep. And the reason that you have two different, year 1 and year 4, those numbers are higher because those years, the load bank is tested for 2 hours longer. So year 1 and 4, the load bank is tested for 4 hours, 2, 3, and 5 is tested for 2 hours.
Gotcha.
And that's done once a year?
What's that? Yeah,
That, according to the contract.
Yep. Annual service.
So what did we do between 2020 and now?
As far as I know, nothing. It sat and we just relied on it being okay. So
Well,
we found this fall, earlier this fall, that we needed to get it checked. There were a few things wrong. We had a power outage to where we were relying on the generator. There's a few things to address.
okay.
Mrs. Brumbaugh?
Yes.
Mrs. Kim Parsons?
Yes.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes.
Mr. Kress?
Yes.
Dr. Hinkleman?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
D, transportation to private schools. The Milton-Union Board of Education, after examination of existing school bus routes, time schedules, student residence location, school location, and available school conveyances, and upon establishing that the below-named pupils are eligible to receive transportation in accordance with Section 3327.01 of the Ohio Revised Code and State Board Standards EDB 91702 and District Board Policy, has declared by board resolution that such service by school conveyance is impractical, and hereby agrees to pay the parent or guardian of said pupil in lieu of providing such service, an amount which shall not exceed the state average cost to transport pupils in the state the preceding year. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Just to clarify, this is cheaper to transport, pay the parents to transport it as opposed to us transporting him, using our equipment and drivers.
Correct.
Correct.
Yes, I
Correct.
just wanted to make sure that.
Yes. That's correct.
Okay.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes.
Mrs. Kim Parsons?
Yes.
Mrs. Brumbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Kress?
Yes.
Dr. Hinkleman?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
E, Miami County ESC contract, recommend approval of the contract between the Milton-Union Exempted Village School District and the Miami County Educational Service Center beginning July 1st, 2024 and ending June 30th, 2025. Services will be provided and billed for the 2024-25 school year. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call. Mr. Diaz?
Yes.
Mrs. Kim Parsons?
Yes.
Mrs. Brumbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Kress?
Yes.
Dr. Hinkleman?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
F, consent calendar, recommend approval of all matters listed under the consent calendar.
Move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Mr. Kress?
Yes.
I'm sorry, it should have been Mrs. Kim Parsons.
Yes.
Mr. Kress?
Yes.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes.
Mrs. Brumbaugh?
Yes.
Dr. Hinkleman?
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0.
9, other authorizations and resolutions. A, recommend approval for the Milton-Union FFA to attend the Connect/IM Ohio FFA Leadership Conference in Columbus, Ohio, January 18th to January 19th of 2025.
So moved.
Second.
How's this being funded?
Students.
That's what I figured.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes.
Mrs. Brumbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Kress?
Yes.
Mrs. Kim Parsons?
Yes.
Dr. Hinkleman?
Yes. 10, board reports, legislative and student achievement, I have nothing. B, policy update.
Just, I'm sorry, just still waiting on a
Neola.
confirmed date with Norm for
Can
a
you
ball update.
schedule me, try to see if I'm available?
Sure.
Okay. C, building and transportation.
Do you have anything, Curtis?
Curtis, just came up earlier in the meeting. We have 6 routes, correct?
7.
7.
We have
That-
7. We have 7 buses running 8 routes.
7 buses running 8 routes.
That is not including special needs or CTC.
Okay?
Do
So
full
that's
buses.
one more dedicated bus to the CTC, another dedicated bus for special needs.
So a total of 9?
Yes.
Total of 10.
Well, 7 buses running 8 routes. So if we were at full capacity, we'd have,
10.
yeah,
10 buses.
we have 9 doing it. But if we were at full capacity, we'd have 10.
So we have 9 buses in service daily.
Correct.
That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yes.
Okay. How many do we have sitting spare? 6?
Or if you're counting, we have 22 buses in total.
I think that was the number that.
And we have a spare special needs bus too, as part of that.
Started the year with 11 routes, went to 10, went to 9, went to 8. We're now at 7.
And Curtis,
Lost a step.
if we were looking to sell a bus on Gov Deals, what do you think we would get? What are you seeing? What does it
Minimal.
fluctuate?
You're probably in the low 5 digits for what you're going to get for it.
Well, so we know that the trade-in value is between $1,500 and $2,500. And so the gentleman that spoke earlier, he wasn't talking about trade-in, he was talking about selling them on Gov Deals.
Yeah.
And if we just take his word for it, then that's $3,000 to $4,000. We'd have to check on that, but $3,000 to $4,000. So depending on the circumstance, somewhere between $1,500 and $4,000 times however many buses, I mean maybe 60 grand at best.
Can we pay our teachers with the money we sell for that?
Does that have to go back into PI?
I'd have to look back and see where those buses, which ones we would trade in, depending on the year we bought them. Would also depend on if it came out of PI or not.
Okay.
They
So
don't
if it's-
always come out of PI?
It just depends on how old, I don't know how old the buses are. So like if PI started in 2009 and it was in that cycle and the bus was paid for out of PI, the revenue would have to go back into PI.
Oh, so there was a time when maybe the district was buying buses out of
The general fund?
Yeah, the general
Oh,
fund.
absolutely.
Okay.
There was no PI.
Okay.
Oh.
I'm sure there was.
Well,
Or
I don't
any
think
kind
it.
of grant. Didn't we just recently, or like 2 years ago, receive a grant?
So what if we did sell a bus that was grant funded?
Would be a great question. I'd have to ask an auditor.
Okay.
Typically, when we buy a new bus, we trade a bus in, and we use that traded value towards the purchase of the bus.
Right.
And so it offsets whatever that cost is. So it reduces that price, but we do purchase out of the PI fund.
It doesn't sound like it would fully fund a teacher. I mean, just conservatively, let's say there's a few buses that, grant dollars, we could do whatever we want with, maybe, we'd have to double check that. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We'd have to look at the age of the bus too,
Yeah.
and when it was put in service.
What do you think
That's-
is the minimum amount of extra buses we need to carry?
Honestly, typically you try to keep 1 spare per, but that's because you have buses that are on maintenance cycles and then accounting for repairs if there were things to go wrong. So-
Per route?
What's that?
Per route?
Per route?
1 spare per route?
No. You try to keep, we have 1 special needs bus, 1 spare bus. And then we try to keep probably 7 to 8. So you're just shy of what your total routes are. So
Okay.
you account for maintenance, regular maintenance, and then extensive.
Because you're routinely switching them out for issues, right?
Correct. So the older they get, those are the ones that we typically trade in, the ones that have issues.
So probably for our current busing, the minimum amount of buses should be 18 to 19 at a minimum?
We traded in more this year, actually. We purchased a special needs bus. That's the one that we got this fall. We traded in our special needs bus and 2 more buses, full-size buses. With that.
Okay. Curtis, did we ever get what we're gonna do with salt figured out since the village is no
Yes.
longer doing
We're
that?
getting it from a third party.
Okay.
Filling that salt bin, would that cover the winter or?
Would it cover us for the winter?
Yes. Obviously,
It
there's
would.
variables, but.
Yep, it's, last year, I think we went through 2.5 truckloads of salt. Our bin can hold about 1 to 2, depending on how high we stack it. It's not very deep, so, but we figured out a solution to where we could store salt so that we can use it the following year. So what we have left over, we can use the following year.
Other questions about that?
Guess not. Okay.
Yeah, we are gonna, rent a lift to get the, or maybe that's already been done, the flags off the top of the goalpost?
We are gonna run a lift. We're gonna dual purpose it, to remove some banners and such at Memorial Stadium and then change a few lights here in the parking lot. Our electrician will use the lift to, change out some lights to conventional LEDs. Upgrade.
So trying to match that up when we'd have the expense anyway.
Correct.
When, in the past, we'd, with maybe the village is putting up decorations downtown, we piggyback on that?
Yeah, or we would just, we'd call and say, hey, can you give us a day where we can borrow you for 45 minutes to come over and take banner down and take flags down? So,
Okay.
So that's what we did previously?
that is what we did previously. We would communicate with them, they'd send somebody over with the JLG, and then they both would work to take things down. One would drive and one would remove.
So we identified a solution.
Okay.
And then I think the issue with the salt was space to be able to park a vehicle of some sort. I think maybe, because they do the Friday large pickups, and then one of the trash garbage trucks, I don't know which, but I think they're gonna park something there.
One of those vehicles will be parked in that spare space.
So apparently that's, I don't know, 3 truckloads of salt's worth of space.
Yeah.
I don't really know what, have you had eyes on it before? Okay.
Did we get the salt?
Yes.
Maybe I'm blind. Where is the salt bin?
Oh, it's,
Maybe I didn't see it.
between the visitors locker room and the maintenance/bus barn.
Oh, so it's over there.
Yep.
Now I know why I didn't see it.
It's
hidden.
back in
Yeah. I wasn't looking at it.
It's good it's hidden.
Okay. D, MVCTC, we kind of covered that. E, Milton-Union Education Foundation.
We're going to be meeting this week and discussing our next fundraiser that we put on in March, our pancake breakfast, and just kind of discuss how we want to lay that out again and see what we could do to enhance it. But not sure when we're going to be doing it in March, but it's typically in March, and it's always a really good time.
F, Audit and Finance. Justin, Lori.
Good?
I think we started our yearly auditor process.
Yes.
Yes.
Couple days in the district so far.
fill out your frac.
Done.
All right, and let's move on. Facility complex.
I don't have anything.
Okay. 11, information and discussion items. A, organizational meeting date. So we need to pick a date within how many days of the turn of the year? 10 days?
I think it's 15, isn't it?
15?
That sounds right. To do the organizational stuff. I don't have my phone, so I don't have my schedule.
Has to be done within the first 15 days.
Calendar days, business days. I'm sorry.
It says the
I
first.
don't know my work schedule, so I don't have my phone.
Can we talk about that in the December meeting? Does that have to be decided tonight?
No,
She doesn't have a work schedule.
that's fine.
It's, yeah.
It's just a discussion item. We can.
Okay. Thinking about it.
B, general information, updates, anything further?
I don't think so.
Okay, 12, board announcements, upcoming meetings. The next regular meeting is Monday, December 16th, 2024 at 6 PM in the Media Center. 13, executive session. Recommend approval to adjourn to executive session for purposes authorized under BOE policy 0166 and ORC 121.22G1 to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee. There will be no action taken after the board exits executive session. Inviting Dr. Ritchie, Terry,
Katie,
Katie.
Curtis. But then, as you look over there, there's Mr. Watson, Mrs. Blankenship, Ms. Kocher. Any of those folks that you want to see? Special ed, high school,
Is there?
elementary school?
I'll leave that up to your judgment.
Alyssa, you better come in.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Second.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes.
Mrs. Kim Parsons?
Yes.
Mr. Kress?
Yes.
Mrs. Brumbault?
Yes.
Dr. Hinkleman?
Yes.